The world's brightest minds had gathered in Geneva for the International Physics and Innovation Challenge, a highly prestigious competition streamed to millions of viewers worldwide. It wasn't the kind of event Elon Musk usually tuned into. His days were packed with meetings, factory visits, and visionary brainstorming sessions. But on this rare, quiet evening, a tweet with the headline, "12-year-old genius stuns the world," caught his eye. Clicking the link, Musk leaned back in his chair as the live stream loaded. The screen displayed a small boy standing nervously on stage, flanked by much older competitors. His name was Sam Parker, and he was an anomaly among the crowd. The host announced the challenge: reverse engineer and solve a complex physics equation used to simulate interstellar gravitational waves. A murmur rippled through the audience. It was a problem many seasoned scientists would struggle to solve in a week. Yet, as the camera panned back to Sam, there was no sign of panic in his eyes. He bent over the tablet provided to the contestants, his small hands a blur of motion. Musk sat up straighter, his curiosity piqued. 15 minutes later, the competition timer buzzed, but no one was watching the clock anymore. All eyes were on the large display screen where Sam's solution illuminated in glowing lines of mathematical elegance. The room erupted into stunned applause. Musk watched the judges' astonishment as they declared the boy's answer flawless. A smile tugged at the corners of Musk's mouth. "Who is this kid?" he muttered to himself. The video feed cut to a reporter interviewing Sam backstage. Sam's voice, soft but confident, carried through Musk's speakers. I see numbers as puzzles. They don't scare me," Sam said with a shrug. "I like solving them." Musk replayed that sentence in his mind. "I like solving them." In a world plagued by unsolved problems, climate change, space colonization, and sustainable energy, those words felt like a whisper of untapped potential. Musk's mind raced. If this boy could tackle a problem like that in mere minutes, what else was he capable of? Without hesitation, Musk pulled out his phone and dialed one of his assistants. "Find me everything you can about Sam Parker," he ordered, "and set up a meeting. Soon." Little did Musk know, this wasn't just the start of a professional collaboration. It was the beginning of a partnership that would alter the course of human history. In a small suburban town in Illinois, the Parker household stood as a quiet testament to resilience. The peeling paint on the walls and the faint hum of an old refrigerator hinted at financial struggles, but inside, it was filled with the warmth of love and determination. Sam Parker, a wiry 12-year-old with untamed curly hair and oversized glasses, sat cross-legged on the worn carpet of his room. Surrounding him were notebooks filled with scribbles of equations, hand-drawn schematics, and theories he wasn't sure anyone else could understand. Sam wasn't your average kid. While other children obsessed over video games or sports, he found comfort in the language of numbers and the mysteries of the universe. It wasn't something he had chosen. It was something he felt compelled to do. His mother, Rachel Parker, worked long hours as a nurse to make ends meet. A single parent since Sam was 2, Rachel had sacrificed much to give him the bare essentials. She didn't fully understand her son's genius, but she recognized the spark in his eyes whenever he talked about gravitational lenses or quantum fields. Rachel's concern, however, wasn't just financial, it was emotional. Sam didn't have friends. At school, he was the target of constant teasing, labeled the weirdo or Einstein Jr. The other kids didn't understand his brilliance, and he didn't know how to bridge the gap between himself and them. The loneliness hurt, but Sam had learned to bury that pain under layers of calculations and thought experiments. That evening, Rachel knocked gently on his bedroom door, peeking in with a soft smile. "Sam, dinner's ready. And can we talk about what happened today?" she asked, her voice laced with concern. Sam sighed, closing his notebook. "It was nothing, Mom. Just some kids being stupid again." Rachel walked in, sitting beside him. "Sam, I know it's hard, but you can't keep letting them get to you. You're special. You know that, right?" "I don't want to be special," Sam muttered, his voice barely audible. "I just want to be normal." Rachel's heart ached. She pulled him into a hug, brushing a stray curl from his forehead. "Normal is overrated," she whispered. "You're going to do great things someday, Sam. I can feel it." Unbeknownst to either of them, that someday was closer than they thought. The next morning, as Sam sat in his usual corner of the school cafeteria, nibbling on a peanut butter sandwich, the principal's voice boomed over the intercom. "Sam Parker, please report to the office immediately." Sam froze. He racked his brain for what he could have possibly done wrong. As he made his way to the office, he noticed the curious stares of his classmates, whispers trailing him like an invisible cloud. When he stepped into the principal's office, his mother was already there, looking both confused and excited. Beside her stood a sharply dressed woman, holding a sleek tablet. "Sam," Rachel said, her voice trembling. "This is Ms. Torres. She works for Elon Musk." Sam blinked, certain he had misheard. "Elon Musk?" he repeated. The woman smiled, extending a hand. "Mr. Musk saw your performance at the competition yesterday. He's very impressed and would like to meet you." Sam's mouth fell open, words failing him for the first time in his life. Rachel's voice broke the silence. "Sam, what do you think?" For a moment, he couldn't answer. The world seemed to tilt slightly on its axis, a sensation both exhilarating and terrifying. Finally, he nodded, his voice barely above a whisper. I want to meet him." Rachel placed a protective hand on his shoulder. "We'll go together," she said firmly, her tone leaving no room for argument. Miss Torres smiled. "Wonderful. Mr. Musk is eager to meet you, Sam. I think this could be the start of something extraordinary." As Sam walked out of the office with his mother, his heart pounded in his chest. For the first time in his life, the walls that had boxed him in, the small town, the teasing classmates, the endless loneliness, seemed to crumble, and in their place, a new world of possibilities began to take shape. The hum of the private jet engine filled the cabin as Sam stared out the window, his breath fogging the glass. Below, endless stretches of desert blurred into the horizon. Rachel sat beside him, her hands tightly clasped together, her usual calm replaced by nervous energy. This was far from the life they knew, far from Illinois, far from their small, predictable world. Ms. Torres, Elon Musk's assistant, sat across from them, typing furiously on her laptop. She occasionally glanced up to offer a polite smile, but remained absorbed in her work. As the jet descended, Sam spotted a sprawling industrial complex in the distance, gleaming under the California sun. The words SpaceX and Tesla adorned massive buildings, and rows of rocket components gleamed like pieces of some futuristic puzzle. His heart raced. "Is that it?" Sam asked, voice tinged with awe. "Yes," Ms. Torres replied, not looking up. "That's SpaceX's headquarters. Mr. Musk is waiting for you." The landing was smooth, but Rachel's anxiety only grew as they stepped off the jet and into the bustling compound. Engineers zipped past on scooters. Robotic arms moved gracefully in assembly areas. The air buzzed with innovation and possibility. Sam felt like he had walked into one of the sci-fi novels he loved. A sleek electric car awaited them at the tarmac. Ms. Torres gestured for them to get in. Sam fidgeted in the back seat, his hands gripping his knees as they weaved through the complex. The car stopped outside a glass panel building. "This is the main hub," Ms. Torres explained. "Mr. Musk is expecting you in the conference room." Sam's heart pounded. As the doors slid open, they stepped into a pristine lobby where technology seemed to pulse in every corner. A robotic receptionist greeted them cheerily, its voice echoing across the marble floors. Rachel tightened her grip on Sam's hand, giving him a reassuring squeeze. "Ready?" Ms. Torres asked. Sam nodded, though he wasn't sure he was. They were led through a series of hallways until they reached a large conference room. The walls were lined with screens displaying data from current projects, rockets in flight, simulations of Mars colonies, and detailed graphs Sam couldn't fully comprehend yet. And then, there he was. Elon Musk stood at the far end of the room, arms crossed, a slight smile on his face. He wasn't as intimidating in person as Sam had expected. If anything, he looked approachable, like someone who had just stepped out of a casual brainstorming session. "Sam Parker," Musk said, walking toward them. His voice was steady, curious. "I've been waiting to meet you." Sam froze, unsure of how to respond. Rachel nudged him gently, and he managed a quiet, "Hi." Musk chuckled. "Don't be nervous, kid. You're here because I'm impressed. What you did during that competition was extraordinary. Sam's cheeks flushed. It wasn't that big of a deal, he mumbled. Not a big deal? Musk's eyebrows shot up. You solved a problem that some of the brightest minds in the world would have struggled with. And you did it in under 20 minutes. That's more than a big deal. It's remarkable. Rachel cleared her throat, her protective instincts kicking in. Mr. Musk, I appreciate you bringing us here, but I need to know, what exactly do you want from my son? Musk's expression softened. Fair question, he said. He gestured for them to sit at the conference table. As they settled in, Musk leaned forward, his eyes locking onto Sam's. I have a project that could change everything. Interstellar travel, quantum propulsion. These are things people only dream about. But dreams don't become reality without bold ideas and fresh perspectives. And Sam, I think you have what it takes to help us crack this. Sam's eyes widened. Interstellar travel? You mean going to other stars? Exactly, Musk said, his enthusiasm growing. But it's not just about rockets or technology. It's about solving problems no one's ever solved before. And I think you're uniquely suited for that. Rachel frowned. He's just a boy. A very smart boy, yes, but a child nonetheless. Don't you think this is too much pressure for someone his age? I understand your concern, Musk replied, his tone respectful. But I'm not asking Sam to do this alone. He'd be part of a team, guided, mentored. This isn't about exploiting his talent. It's about nurturing it. Sam looked at his mother, his mind spinning. The idea of working with Elon Musk, contributing to something as monumental as interstellar travel, felt like a dream. But Rachel's worried expression reminded him of the weight such an opportunity carried. Musk leaned back, sensing the tension. Why don't we start small, he suggested. Spend a few weeks here, get a feel for the environment. No commitments. If it's not the right fit, you're free to walk away. Rachel hesitated, then turned to Sam. It's your decision, she said softly. Sam swallowed hard. I want to try, he said, his voice trembling but determined. Musk smiled. Great. Welcome to the team, Sam. As they left the conference room, Sam felt a strange mix of exhilaration and fear. He didn't know what lay ahead, but for the first time, the future felt like a place he wanted to explore. Sam's first day at SpaceX was a whirlwind. From the moment he walked through the sleek, high-tech corridors of the headquarters, he felt as if he had entered a different world, a world where ideas were turned into reality faster than he could comprehend. The morning began with an orientation led by Ms. Torres. She introduced Sam and Rachel to key members of the team, each of whom greeted them warmly. There was Dr. Anya Patel, a physicist specializing in quantum mechanics, Javier Cruz, an aerospace engineer with a knack for simplifying the most complex designs, and Marcus Lee, the head of artificial intelligence systems, who carried a constant air of quiet genius. Sam was assigned a workspace in the Innovation Lab, a massive open area filled with whiteboards, holographic displays, and prototypes of projects in various stages of development. He stood there for a moment, overwhelmed by the sheer scale of it all. Hey kid, a voice called out. Sam turned to see Javier approaching with a friendly smile. First day, huh? Don't worry, you'll get used to the chaos. Sam nodded shyly. It's a lot. Javier chuckled. It always is. But trust me, this is where the magic happens. You're lucky. You've got Elon's attention. That doesn't happen every day. The weight of those words wasn't lost on Sam. He sat at his desk, nervously organizing the notebooks and pens he had brought from home, trying to blend in with the flow of activity around him. Later that morning, Musk arrived in the lab, a flurry of energy and ideas. He scanned the room and spotted Sam, waving him over. Sam, let's see what you've got, Musk said, leading him to a whiteboard. We're working on a problem with one of our propulsion designs. Maybe you can offer a fresh perspective. Sam felt the eyes of the room on him. His palms were sweaty as he looked at the complex equations already scribbled across the board. This equation represents the energy required for our current quantum propulsion model, Musk explained, tapping the board. But we keep hitting a wall. There's too much loss in the transfer system. Any thoughts? Sam's mind went blank for a moment. But then, as he focused on the equation, The familiar rhythm of numbers began to take over. The world around him faded, and all that remained was the puzzle in front of him. What if, Sam started, his voice hesitant, what if you reconfigure the field to mimic a wave function instead of a particle transfer? That might reduce the loss by allowing the energy to flow more naturally. The room went quiet. Musk raised an eyebrow, then stepped aside to let Sam write on the board. Sam's small hands moved quickly, drawing out a new set of equations that expanded on his idea. When he finished, he stepped back, unsure if he had just embarrassed himself or impressed the crowd. Javier leaned forward, squinting at the board. "Wait a second. That's brilliant," he said, his voice filled with awe. Dr. Patel nodded in agreement. "If we run simulations based on this, we might actually solve the energy loss issue." Musk clapped his hands together. "Now that's what I'm talking about. Great work, Sam." Sam felt a surge of pride, though he tried to keep it hidden behind his usual reserved demeanor. For the first time, he felt like he truly belonged. While Sam was thriving in his new environment, Rachel couldn't shake her unease. She watched her son from the sidelines, marveling at how quickly he adapted to the high-pressure world of SpaceX. But the mother in her couldn't help but worry. That evening, as they settled into their temporary apartment provided by Musk, Rachel decided to bring up her concerns. "Sam, can we talk?" she asked as they unpacked. Sam looked up from a notebook where he was sketching ideas. "What's up, Mom?" Rachel hesitated, searching for the right words. "I'm so proud of you. What you're doing here is amazing. But I don't want you to lose your childhood in all of this. You're still just a kid." Sam frowned. "Mom, I've never really had a normal childhood. Kids at school don't get me. But here, I feel like I finally fit in." Rachel sighed. "I know, sweetheart. I just want to make sure you're happy. This is a big responsibility." Sam smiled softly. "I am happy, Mom. I promise." Though Rachel wasn't entirely convinced, she decided to let it go for now. She could see how much this opportunity meant to Sam, and she didn't want to stand in the way of his dreams. As the days turned into weeks, Sam became an integral part of the team. He wasn't just a boy genius anymore. He was a collaborator, someone whose ideas were helping shape the future. And while challenges lay ahead, one thing was certain. This was only the beginning of an extraordinary journey. Sam quickly became immersed in the fast-paced world of SpaceX, where innovation was a constant and limits were meant to be shattered. Each day was a whirlwind of brainstorming sessions, simulations, and hands-on problem-solving. For Sam, this was more than just work. It was a playground for his mind. Yet, as much as he was thriving, the team didn't make it easy for him. They were kind, yes, but they also wanted to test him, to see if his brilliance was as sharp as Elon Musk believed. And for a 12-year-old thrust into a world of professionals with years of experience, the pressure was immense. One morning, Sam arrived at the lab to find Marcus Lee, the head of artificial intelligence systems, waiting for him. "Morning, Sam," Marcus said, sliding a tablet across the table. On it was a schematic of an advanced propulsion system with layers of annotated code. "We've been working on integrating AI into the quantum propulsion model. Think you can take a look?" Sam blinked. "You want me to review your code?" Marcus smirked. "Not just review it. Improve it, if you can. No pressure." Sam hesitated. This wasn't like solving a math problem or designing a theoretical model. This was Marcus Lee's work, one of the top AI experts in the world. What if he couldn't do it? But as he stared at the tablet, something clicked. He started analyzing the code, his mind racing to piece together the logic. Hours passed as he rewrote algorithms, optimized sequences, and restructured entire sections. By the time he was done, his hands were trembling, but his eyes shone with excitement. Marcus reviewed the changes in silence. The tension in the room was palpable. Finally, he looked up, his expression a mix of amazement and respect. "You just cut our processing time by 40%, Marcus said, shaking his head. How did you do that?" Sam shrugged, his cheeks flushing. "It just made sense." From that moment, Sam earned Marcus's admiration and the nickname Code Wizard. While Sam was flourishing, Elon Musk was focused on a much larger goal. The team was working tirelessly on a groundbreaking project, a quantum drive capable of making interstellar travel a reality. It was an ambitious endeavor, even by SpaceX standards. During a team meeting, Musk addressed the room. "We're close, but we're not there yet. The quantum drive is functional in theory, but the energy efficiency isn't sustainable for long-range missions. We need a breakthrough." The room buzzed with discussions and theories, but no clear solution emerged. Sam sat quietly, absorbing every word. After the meeting, he stayed behind, studying the equations Musk had scribbled on the whiteboard. An idea began to form, one that seemed so simple it was almost absurd. "Mr. Musk?" Sam called out as the billionaire prepared to leave. Musk turned, curious. "Yes, Sam? What if we use a fractal energy matrix?" Sam said, his voice steady despite the nerves coursing through him. "It could distribute the energy more evenly, reducing waste and increasing efficiency." Musk stared at him, a slow smile spreading across his face. "A fractal energy matrix," he murmured, rubbing his chin. "That's bold. And exactly the kind of thinking we need." Within days, the team was testing Sam's idea. It wasn't perfect, it required fine-tuning, but it worked. For the first time, the quantum drive achieved efficiency levels previously thought impossible. Sam's contribution didn't just earn him Musk's approval. It cemented his place as an essential member of the team. As the weeks went on, Sam's confidence grew. He began leading smaller projects, collaborating with team members who initially underestimated him but now treated him as an equal. One evening, Rachel joined him at the lab, bringing dinner. She watched from the sidelines as Sam worked with a group of engineers, his face lit up with enthusiasm. "Is this the same boy who used to spend hours alone in his room, tinkering with model rockets?" Rachel asked Javier, who was standing nearby. Javier smiled. "He's still that boy. He's just found his people now." Rachel nodded, her heart swelling with pride. For all her worries, it was clear that Sam was exactly where he was meant to be. But not everything was smooth sailing. One day, during a crucial test of the quantum drive, the system malfunctioned. The test rocket exploded on the launch pad, sending shockwaves through the team. Sam was devastated. He had been heavily involved in the design of the new energy system, and the failure felt personal. In the aftermath, Musk called a meeting. "Failures happen," he said firmly. "They're part of the process. What matters is how we respond. So let's figure out what went wrong and fix it." Sam, however, couldn't shake the feeling that he had let everyone down. That night, he sat alone in his room, replaying the test in his mind, searching for the flaw he had missed. Rachel found him there, his head buried in his hands. "Sam," she said gently, sitting beside him, "you can't carry the weight of this on your own. Even Elon Musk has setbacks. It's how you learn and grow." Sam looked up at her, his eyes brimming with tears. "What if I'm not good enough, Mom? What if I can't do this?" Rachel cupped his face in her hands. "You're more than good enough, Sam. And you don't have to do this alone. You've got a team. Trust them and trust yourself." Her words stayed with him. The next day, Sam returned to the lab with renewed determination. Together, the team analyzed the failure, identified the issue, and began working on a solution. And in the process, Sam learned one of the most important lessons of his journey. Greatness isn't about never failing. It's about always rising after you fall. The setback from the failed test served as a wake-up call for everyone at SpaceX. It wasn't just about fixing the quantum drive. It was about strengthening the bonds within the team and building a shared resilience. For Sam, this marked a turning point in how he saw his role within the organization. He realized he wasn't alone. The brilliance of SpaceX wasn't just in its technology. It was in the people who made it happen. Sam had spent weeks feeling like he had to prove himself, but now he understood that success wasn't just about individual genius. It was about collaboration. The morning after their analysis of the failure, the lab was buzzing with renewed energy. Elon Musk gathered the team for an open discussion. "Okay, everyone," Musk said, pacing in front of a giant holographic display of the propulsion system. "We've identified the issue with the fractal energy matrix. It's overloading the system at high frequencies. Now we need to redesign it without sacrificing efficiency." "Ideas?" Dr. Anya Patel spoke up. We could stabilize the frequencies by introducing a secondary wave modulator. It'll add complexity, but it might solve the overload issue. Javier Cruz frowned. That could work, but it might also increase the weight of the system. We'd have to compensate somewhere else. Sam, who had been quietly listening, suddenly had an idea. What if we integrate the modulator directly into the matrix? That way, we wouldn't need additional hardware. It could function as part of the existing system. The room fell silent as the team considered his suggestion. Marcus Lee grinned. That's actually brilliant. We'd need to rewrite the code for the AI controls, but it's doable. Musk nodded, a gleam of approval in his eyes. All right, let's do it. Divide into sub-teams: hardware, software, and testing. Sam, you're with Marcus and me on the AI integration. For the next few weeks, the team worked tirelessly. The lab became a hive of activity, with engineers and scientists bouncing ideas off each other, testing theories, and refining designs. Sam found himself at the center of it all. He wasn't just contributing ideas. He was actively leading brainstorming sessions, troubleshooting issues, and even mentoring some of the newer team members. Amid the intensity of their work, Sam began forming deeper connections with his colleagues. One afternoon, while they were debugging the AI control system, Marcus turned to Sam. You know, kid, you're something else. Most people your age are worried about video games and school dances, and here you are, revolutionizing space travel. Sam blushed. I'm just trying to help. Marcus laughed. Well, you're doing a lot more than that. And don't forget, you've got us to back you up. Javier, who was tinkering with a prototype nearby, chimed in. Yeah, we're your crew now, Sam. You mess up, we've got your back. But if you show us up too much, we might have to prank you. Sam grinned for the first time in days. It felt good to belong. Even Dr. Patel, who had initially been skeptical of having a child prodigy on the team, began to warm up to him. During a late-night work session, she handed Sam a cup of hot cocoa. You've earned it, she said with a smile. You're proving that age doesn't define brilliance. Meanwhile, Rachel found herself drawn into the SpaceX community. She had initially planned to stay on the sidelines, but as she spent more time at the headquarters, she started volunteering to help with logistical tasks. One day, Musk approached her in the cafeteria. Rachel, I hear you've been organizing supply shipments for the lab, he said, sitting down across from her. Rachel nodded. Just trying to be useful. It's the least I can do. Musk leaned back, studying her. You've got a knack for this. Ever considered a more formal role here? Rachel hesitated. She hadn't worked in years, dedicating her life to raising Sam and supporting his unique needs. But the idea of contributing to something as monumental as SpaceX was exciting. I'll think about it, she said finally. Over time, Rachel became an unofficial member of the SpaceX family, helping to coordinate operations and ensuring the team had everything they needed. It gave her a new sense of purpose and allowed her to stay close to Sam. By the end of the month, the team was ready to test the redesigned quantum drive. This time, the atmosphere in the lab was different. There was still tension, but it was accompanied by a sense of unity. As they gathered around the control room, Musk addressed the team. This isn't just about the drive, he said. It's about what we can achieve when we work together. No matter what happens today, remember that we're making history. The countdown began, and everyone held their breath as the test rocket roared to life. This time, there was no explosion, no catastrophic failure. The data streamed in, and cheers erupted as the results confirmed what they had hoped for. The drive worked flawlessly. Sam watched the celebration with a mixture of relief and pride. He had been part of something extraordinary, not just the technology, but the team that made it possible. For the first time, he felt not only like a boy genius, but also like a true collaborator. As the excitement settled, Musk gathered the core team, including Sam and Rachel. Now that the quantum drive is operational, it's time to think bigger, he said, his eyes gleaming with ambition. Our next mission, Mars. The room buzzed with excitement, but Sam felt a chill of anticipation. He knew this would be the biggest challenge yet, a journey that would test not only their technology, but also their courage and determination. And he couldn't wait to see where it would lead. With the success of the quantum drive, the entire SpaceX team shifted focus to their ultimate goal, a manned mission to Mars. For Sam, The thought of contributing to humanity's first interstellar colony was both exhilarating and terrifying. In the weeks following the test, Elon Musk convened the brightest minds in the company for a series of high-level meetings. The task was monumental: designing a spacecraft capable of transporting a crew safely to Mars, establishing a sustainable colony, and overcoming the countless unknowns of life on the red planet. During one such meeting, Elon presented the team with a new challenge. "We've got the quantum drive," he said, gesturing to a holographic projection of a sleek spacecraft prototype. "But propulsion is just one piece of the puzzle. We need a habitat system that can withstand Mars' harsh environment, a life support system capable of indefinite operation, and a plan to generate food and water on site. And we need it yesterday." The team erupted into discussion, brainstorming ideas and debating solutions. Sam, seated next to Marcus, listened intently, his mind racing. Elon noticed Sam's contemplative expression. "What do you think, Sam?" he asked, silencing the room. Sam hesitated, then spoke. "What if we used a modular design for the habitats? Something that can be expanded as the colony grows. Each module could have its own power source, life support system, and redundancies, so if one fails, the others can still function." Elon's eyes lit up. Modular, scalable, resilient. I like it. Let's explore it further. The team dove into Sam's idea, refining it and integrating it into the broader mission plan. For Sam, it was another moment of validation, a reminder that his voice mattered, even in a room full of experts. To prepare for the mission, SpaceX set up a Mars simulation facility on the outskirts of Los Angeles. The facility, nicknamed Red Base, was designed to mimic the Martian environment as closely as possible, complete with low-gravity simulators, harsh weather conditions, and limited resources. Sam visited Red Base with Elon and the core team. As they toured the facility, Sam's excitement grew. "This is incredible," he said, examining a prototype habitat module. "It feels like we're already there." Elon smiled. "That's the idea. If we can make it work here, we can make it work on Mars." Sam quickly immersed himself in the simulation, collaborating with engineers to test the quantum drive's integration with the spacecraft and working on the AI systems that would manage life support and habitat functions. But as the weeks went by, the team faced setback after setback. The life support system malfunctioned during a critical test, the habitat module struggled to maintain stable pressure, and the food production systems were riddled with inefficiencies. One particularly frustrating evening, Sam and Marcus stayed late at Red Base, trying to debug the AI responsible for managing oxygen levels. "This is impossible," Marcus muttered, running a hand through his hair. "The algorithm should work, but it's not responding the way it should." Sam stared at the code on his tablet, then looked up at the oxygen control module. "What if the problem isn't the algorithm?" he said. "What if it's the sensors? If they're not calibrated correctly, the AI might be getting bad data." Marcus blinked. "That actually makes sense. Let's check it out." Sure enough, a faulty sensor was causing the issue. Once they replaced it, the system worked perfectly. "You're a lifesaver, kid," Marcus said, clapping Sam on the back. Meanwhile, Rachel officially joined the SpaceX logistics team, helping to coordinate operations at Red Base. She took pride in her work and found herself bonding with the other team members. One evening, she sat with Javier and Dr. Patel in the facility's cafeteria. "Sam's been amazing," Dr. Patel said. "He's not just brilliant, he's inspiring. He makes us all want to think bigger." Rachel smiled, her heart swelling with pride. "He's always been like that. Even as a little boy, he wanted to understand how everything worked. I'm just glad he's found a place where he belongs." Javier chuckled. "Belongs? He's the glue holding us all together. And you're not too bad yourself, Rachel. I think we'd all be lost without you keeping us organized." Rachel blushed, feeling more at home than she had in years. As the team pushed through their challenges, a sense of camaraderie began to emerge. They weren't just co-workers, they were a family, united by a shared dream. Sam felt this most acutely during a team dinner one Friday night. Elon had ordered pizza for everyone, and the group gathered in the main conference room, laughing and sharing stories. "I've never worked on a project like this before," Javier said, raising his soda can in a toast. And I've never worked with a team like this either. Here's to making history together. To history, everyone echoed, clinking their glasses and cans. For Sam, it was a moment of pure joy. A reminder of why they were all here. With the spacecraft design finalized and the quantum drive fully operational, the team prepared for the next phase, an unmanned test flight to Mars. Elon addressed the team in the red base control room. This is it, he said, the culmination of years of work. If this flight is successful, we're one step closer to making humanity a multiplanetary species. Sam stood at the front of the room with Marcus, Rachel, and the rest of the core team. As the countdown began, he felt a mix of excitement and nerves. 10, 9, 8. The room fell silent as the spacecraft roared to life and lifted off the ground. As it disappeared into the sky, Sam couldn't help but smile. They were on the verge of something incredible, and he was ready for whatever came next. The success of the spacecraft's unmanned launch sent a wave of excitement through SpaceX. As the team monitored the spacecraft's progress on its journey to Mars, there was cautious optimism in the air. If all went according to plan, the spacecraft would enter Mars orbit, deploy a set of lander probes, and return data that would shape the future of interplanetary travel. For Sam, it was another milestone in a whirlwind journey. But as he soon learned, testing the limits of their technology meant facing challenges they hadn't anticipated. 2 weeks after launch, the spacecraft encountered its first major issue. One of the quantum drive's auxiliary systems began to overheat during a critical course adjustment. In the SpaceX mission control room, alarms blared as engineers scrambled to analyze the data. Elon Musk stood at the center of the chaos, calm but focused. "Talk to me," he said. Dr. Patel pointed at the monitor. "The thermal regulation system isn't compensating for the energy output. If we don't resolve this, the quantum drive might shut down." Sam, who had been watching from the sidelines, spoke up. "What if we reroute power from the non-essential systems to the cooling units? It could buy us time to stabilize the drive." Marcus nodded. "That could work, but we'll need to reprogram the power distribution algorithm on the fly." "I'll do it," Sam said, already pulling up the system code on his tablet. The room held its breath as Sam worked, his fingers flying across the screen. After a tense 15 minutes, he uploaded the new code. "Rerouting power now," he said. The alarm stopped, and the temperature readings on the monitor began to stabilize. Cheers erupted in the room as Elon turned to Sam with a grin. "Well done, Sam. You just saved our mission." A month later, the spacecraft reached Mars orbit and began deploying the lander probes. Each probe was equipped with sensors to analyze the planet's surface, search for water, and test the feasibility of growing food in Martian soil. The team watched anxiously as the first probe descended through Mars' thin atmosphere. On the main monitor, the probe's cameras captured breathtaking images of the red planet's surface, vast deserts, towering mountains, and deep canyons. "We did it," Rachel whispered, standing next to Sam. "We're really on Mars." But the celebration was short-lived. As the second probe began its descent, its communication link suddenly went dark. "What's happening?" Javier asked, his voice tense. Dr. Patel examined the data. "It looks like the probe hit a dust storm. The high-velocity particles might have damaged the antenna. Can we recover it?" Elon asked. Sam frowned, analyzing the probe's telemetry data. "The probe systems are still operational, but it can't send or receive signals. If we can program the main spacecraft to act as a relay, we might be able to reestablish contact." Elon nodded. "Do it." Working alongside Marcus and Dr. Patel, Sam wrote a new program for the spacecraft. It was a risky maneuver, but after several tense hours, the second probe reconnected. The team erupted into applause, but Sam barely noticed. He was too busy thinking about how much more there was to learn, and how many more challenges lay ahead. Despite the setbacks, Sam was thriving. The crisis with the quantum drive and the probes had shown him that he could think on his feet and contribute in ways he'd never imagined. One evening, after a long day in mission control, he joined Marcus, Javier, and Dr. Patel for dinner in the SpaceX cafeteria. "You've got guts, kid," Marcus said, raising a forkful of spaghetti. "Jumping in like that during the overheating scare? Most adults would have frozen." Sam shrugged, embarrassed. "I just wanted to help." Javier laughed. You're way past just helping, Sam. You're a critical part of this team. Don't sell yourself short. Dr. Patel nodded. He's right. Your insights have saved us more than once. You should be proud of what you've accomplished. Sam smiled, feeling a surge of pride. For the first time, he felt like he truly belonged. As the lander probes continued to transmit data, the team made an incredible discovery, a vast underground reservoir of frozen water near Mars' equator. This changes everything, Elon said during a team briefing. With a water source this large, we can sustain a colony and even produce rocket fuel on Mars. The room buzzed with excitement as engineers and scientists discussed the implications. For Sam, the discovery was a reminder of why they were doing this, to push the boundaries of human knowledge and create a future beyond Earth. But as they celebrated, Sam noticed Elon's expression. "What's wrong?" he asked. Elon hesitated, then said, "Finding water is just one piece of the puzzle. There are still so many unknowns: radiation, psychological effects, long-term sustainability. We're taking a huge risk, and there's no guarantee we'll succeed." Sam thought for a moment, then said, "But isn't that the point? If we don't try, we'll never know what we're capable of." Elon smiled, clapping Sam on the shoulder. Spoken like a true pioneer. As the spacecraft prepared for its return journey, another issue arose. One of the lander probes detected unusually high levels of radiation in certain areas, far beyond what they had anticipated. "This could be a game-changer," Dr. Patel said during a meeting. "If the radiation levels are this variable, we'll need to redesign the colony's shielding." Elon turned to Sam. "What do you think?" Sam hesitated, then said, "What if we used the Martian soil itself as shielding? We could design the habitats to be partially buried, using the soil as a natural barrier." The team considered his suggestion, and Marcus said, "It's not a bad idea. It would add complexity to the construction process, but it's doable." Elon nodded. "Let's model it out. If it works, it could save lives." As the spacecraft began its return journey to Earth, the team reflected on what they had accomplished. They had tested the limits of their technology, discovered new challenges, and taken one step closer to making life on Mars a reality. For Sam, the experience had been transformative. He wasn't just a prodigy anymore. He was part of a team, a pioneer, and a dreamer. But as he looked out the window of Mission Control, watching the stars glimmer in the night sky, he knew this was just the beginning. The spacecraft's triumphant return to Earth brought global attention to SpaceX's Mars program. News outlets hailed it as a monumental step toward interplanetary colonization, with headlines like "The Quantum Drive," "A Leap into the Future," and "Elon Musk's Mars Dream Takes Flight." For Sam, it was surreal to see his name mentioned alongside such historic achievements. As the world celebrated, the team at SpaceX knew the real work was just beginning. The data from Mars had opened up new possibilities, but it also raised new challenges. The day after the spacecraft landed, SpaceX held a press conference at its headquarters in Hawthorne, California. The event was broadcast live to millions around the world. Elon Musk took the stage, flanked by key members of the team, including Dr. Patel, Marcus, and, to Sam's surprise, himself. "Today," Elon began, "we stand on the brink of a new era. The data from our Mars mission confirms that a sustainable colony on the Red Planet is not just a dream. It's a real possibility. But this is not something SpaceX can achieve alone. It will take collaboration, innovation, and the collective effort of humanity." When Elon introduced Sam as one of the key contributors to the mission's success, the audience erupted in applause. Cameras flashed as reporters shouted questions. Sam, unaccustomed to the spotlight, shifted nervously. "I'm just glad I could help," he said simply, drawing an appreciative laugh from the crowd. Behind the scenes, SpaceX began forming partnerships with international space agencies, private companies, and research institutions. The goal was clear: to pool resources and expertise for humanity's first manned mission to Mars. One evening, Sam attended a meeting with representatives from NASA, the European Space Agency, and a prominent biotech company specializing in sustainable agriculture. As the adults discussed technical details, Sam noticed a diagram of a proposed Martian greenhouse. "Excuse me," he said, pointing to the diagram. "Wouldn't the low light levels on Mars make it hard to grow plants?" What if we used fiber optics to channel sunlight directly into the greenhouse? The room fell silent as everyone considered his suggestion. That's actually brilliant, one of the scientists said. It would reduce the need for artificial lighting and conserve energy. Elon grinned. This is why we keep Sam around. Meanwhile, Rachel was thriving in her new role. As part of the logistics team, she managed supply chains, coordinated with international partners, and ensured that SpaceX operations ran smoothly. One afternoon, she found herself in a meeting with Javier and a group of engineers discussing the transportation of habitat modules to Mars. I know weight is a concern, she said, but we can reduce costs by designing modular components that can be assembled on-site. It would also give us more flexibility in adapting to Mars terrain. Javier nodded. That's a great point, Rachel. Let's run the numbers and see how it plays out. For Rachel, it was a moment of validation. Like her son, she was finding her place in this extraordinary endeavor. Despite their busy schedules, Sam and Rachel made time for each other. One evening, they sat on the balcony of their small apartment, gazing at the stars. Do you ever think about Dad? Sam asked suddenly. Rachel nodded. Every day. He would have been so proud of you, Sam. Of us. Sam smiled faintly. I think he'd want us to keep going, to make the most of this chance. Rachel reached out and took his hand. We're doing this together, Sam. And no matter what happens, I'll always be here for you. Back at SpaceX, the team finalized the blueprint for the manned mission. It would involve 3 stages. 1. Preliminary cargo mission. Autonomous spacecraft would deliver supplies, habitat modules, and infrastructure to Mars. 2. Crewed launch. A team of astronauts and engineers would follow, using the quantum drive to reach Mars in record time. 3. Colony establishment. The crew would set up the habitats, begin food and water production, and prepare for long-term habitation. Elon gathered the team for a briefing. This isn't just about reaching Mars, he said. It's about staying there. We need to think long-term, about sustainability, governance, and even the culture we want to build. Sam listened intently, his mind racing with ideas. He couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and apprehension. This wasn't just science, it was history in the making. As the mission plan took shape, SpaceX began selecting candidates for the first crewed mission. The requirements were rigorous: technical expertise, physical fitness, and the psychological resilience to endure the isolation of space. To Sam's surprise, Elon approached him one afternoon with a proposal. Sam, he said, we're thinking about including specialists on the first mission, people who understand the technology and can troubleshoot issues on site. I want you to consider it. Sam's jaw dropped. Me? But I'm just a kid. Elon smiled. You're more than that. You've proven yourself time and time again. And besides, by the time we launch, you'll be 18. Think about it. Sam didn't know what to say. The idea was both thrilling and terrifying. As the launch date for the preliminary cargo mission approached, SpaceX hosted an event to celebrate the global collaboration behind the project. Representatives from dozens of countries attended, symbolizing humanity's collective effort to reach the stars. Sam and Rachel stood together in the crowd, watching as Elon took the stage. This isn't just a SpaceX mission, he said. It's a human mission. A mission for all of us, our children and their children. Together, we're proving that when we dream big and work together, there's nothing we can't achieve. The audience erupted in applause, and Sam felt a surge of hope. They were on the brink of something extraordinary, and he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the preliminary cargo mission drew closer, SpaceX's headquarters was abuzz with activity. Engineers, astronauts, and support staff worked around the clock, finalizing the details of the mission that would pave the way for humanity's first footsteps on Mars. For Sam, the excitement was palpable, but so was the weight of what lay ahead. The invitation to be part of the crew on the first manned mission lingered in his mind. Was he truly ready for the challenge? Would the team accept him as an equal? Late one evening, Sam sat alone in the quiet of his lab at SpaceX, looking over schematics for the mission. His fingers hovered over the tablet, torn between the exhilaration of the opportunity and the fear of the unknown. A decision had to be made soon. His thoughts wandered to Rachel, who had been supportive of whatever choice he made. But Sam knew that deep down, she hoped he'd be part of the mission. The door creaked open, and Elon entered the room, startling Sam. "You're up late," Elon remarked with a grin, sitting across from Sam. "You've been mulling over that invitation, haven't you?" Sam didn't answer immediately. He was still grappling with the gravity of the decision. What if I'm not ready? What if I fail? Elon leaned back, his expression thoughtful. "You won't fail. I've seen you in action. But more importantly, I've seen your vision. You understand Mars not just as a scientist, but as someone who wants to make life there better. That's what we need." Sam swallowed hard, feeling a surge of confidence from Elon's words. "So, you think I should go?" "I think you already know the answer. The mission is bigger than any one of us, but the right people make it happen. And I think you're one of those people." Sam nodded slowly. "Okay, I'm in." Elon smiled. "Good. It's going to be a ride of a lifetime." With Sam's decision made, the next few months were a whirlwind of intense preparation. The crew was assembled, and they began the grueling process of physical, psychological, and technical training. Sam was introduced to the other astronauts who would join him on the journey. There was Commander Lena Anderson, a seasoned astronaut with over 15 years of experience, and Dr. Alan Chong, a biochemist with expertise in agricultural sustainability. The crew also included Lieutenant Gabriel Rivers, a military pilot skilled in spacecraft navigation and emergency procedures. From the moment Sam stepped into the training center, he realized how much he had to learn. His technical expertise in spacecraft systems was invaluable, but there was much more to space exploration than coding and troubleshooting. The physical tests were grueling. Daily workouts, zero-gravity simulations, and survival training in harsh environments pushed Sam's body and mind to their limits. But he never complained. This was what he had signed up for. This was his chance to make history. More than physical training, the psychological preparation was what challenged Sam the most. Spending months in the confines of a spacecraft, isolated from the outside world, was something no one could truly prepare for. The crew underwent regular psychological evaluations and group therapy sessions. Sam found these sessions surprisingly beneficial. Talking openly about their fears, hopes, and expectations helped the team bond in ways that physical training never could. One afternoon, as the crew sat in the therapy room discussing their motivations for joining the mission, Dr. Chong turned to Sam. "You're young, Sam," she said gently. "Why did you decide to go to Mars? You could be doing anything right now, anything you want." Sam thought for a moment before answering. "I want to be part of something bigger than myself. I want to show that we can do this, that humans can live beyond Earth. And I guess I want to prove that even someone like me, someone who started out just thinking about tech, can make a difference." The room fell silent for a moment before Commander Anderson spoke up. "That's the right attitude. We all have our reasons for being here, but the bottom line is that we're a team. We have to support each other every step of the way." The crew nodded in agreement, and Sam felt the weight of their shared responsibility. The day of the launch arrived faster than Sam had anticipated. SpaceX's facilities were a flurry of activity as the final checks were made on the spacecraft. The media, dressed in their finest, stood at the perimeter, cameras ready to capture the moment when history would be made. Sam stood in his spacesuit, standing next to the crew, watching as the final preparations were made. His heart raced with anticipation, and a sense of awe washed over him. This was it. They were about to take humanity's first steps toward becoming a multiplanetary species. Elon Musk was there to see them off, a rare sight at the launch pad. He gave Sam a quick nod, his expression serious but proud. "You've got this," Elon said. "Make us proud, Sam." Sam smiled, his nerves momentarily calming. "We will." As the countdown clock ticked down to 0, the engines roared to life. The spacecraft, the Odyssey, began to lift off from Earth, the ground shaking beneath their feet. Sam felt a rush of exhilaration as the rocket soared into the sky, leaving behind the blue planet he had always known. For the next several days, the crew adjusted to life in space. They floated in zero gravity, conducted maintenance on the spacecraft, and performed experiments designed to test human endurance in space. But it wasn't long before the enormity of the journey began to sink in. They were on their way to Mars. And despite all the preparation, despite all the training, the unknown loomed large before them. As Sam gazed out of the window, Watching Earth slowly recede into the distance, he felt a strange sense of calm. They were no longer just explorers, they were pioneers. And this was their moment. As the Odyssey cruised through the vastness of space, a sense of quietude settled over the crew. They had left Earth's atmosphere behind, and now they were surrounded by the silence of the cosmos. It was peaceful, yet unsettling in its immensity. The crew had settled into a routine of work, sleep, and experiments, but the weight of the journey began to feel more real with each passing day. It had been 3 weeks since the Odyssey left Earth, and Sam had begun to feel the isolation. While the crew was always together, the vast emptiness of space seemed to push them further apart, not physically, but emotionally. Sam and Rachel had exchanged brief messages before the launch, but they hadn't communicated since. With the distance between Earth and Mars, communication was slow. Messages were delayed by several minutes due to the vast expanse between the two planets. This lag in communication made conversations feel distant, even when they were not. Sam missed talking to his mother. He missed hearing her voice, even if it was over a delayed video call. Yet, he knew he was part of something much bigger than himself. On day 26 of the journey, things began to take a turn. The Odyssey had been cruising smoothly, but suddenly, an alarm blared through the spacecraft. Sam and the crew rushed to the control room, where Lieutenant Gabriel Rivers was already assessing the situation. "There's a problem with the auxiliary life support system," Gabriel said, his voice tight with urgency. "We're going to need to fix it or risk compromising the oxygen levels in the next 24 hours. Sam's heart skipped a beat. This was it, the first real test of their training. He moved swiftly to the console, his fingers flying over the controls. "I'll help," Sam said. Commander Anderson nodded. "Let's work together and fix this fast. Everyone, keep calm and follow protocol." As the team worked on the malfunction, the silence of space seemed to grow heavier. There was no room for error. The stakes were higher than ever. Sam felt his hands tremble as he worked alongside Dr. Chong to rewire the life support system. The gravity of the situation was heavy. The wrong move could mean the difference between life and death. "You got this," Dr. Chong said, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. Sam nodded, focusing on the delicate wires and circuits before him. His mind was a blur of calculations, but his hands had done this countless times in the lab. He just had to trust his training and instincts. After several tense minutes, a quiet beep from the control panel signaled that the system was restored. The alarm stopped, and the air seemed to relax around them. "Life support system is online," Gabriel said, a breath of relief escaping him. "We did it," Lena said, her voice filled with pride. Sam exhaled deeply, feeling the weight of the moment lift. But even in the relief, he knew this was only the beginning. As days passed, the stress of space travel began to affect everyone in subtle ways. The isolation, the long stretches of silence, and the constant pressure to be perfect weighed heavily on the crew. Sam found himself withdrawing at times, lost in thought, staring out at the endless void. It was hard to shake the feeling of being alone, even though he was surrounded by people. One afternoon, as he floated in the crew lounge, Lena approached him. "How are you holding up, Sam?" Sam gave her a small smile. "I'm fine. Just thinking, I guess." Lena paused, looking at him thoughtfully. "I get it. Space can be a lot. It's like the more you're out here, the smaller Earth feels. The weight of everything, it hits you. But remember, you're not alone in this. We're all in it together." Sam nodded, grateful for her words. It was easy to forget that, in the vastness of space, they were still a team. He wasn't just an individual. He was part of something greater. To keep morale up, the crew watched Earth Day videos on the ship's entertainment system. It wasn't quite the same as being on Earth, but it was a small way to reconnect with home. Sam found himself looking at the familiar sights, the sprawling forests, the oceans, the cities where his family lived, and feeling a pang of homesickness. He wondered how Rachel was doing. Was she watching the same videos? Was she missing him as much as he missed her? Sam took a deep breath and turned his attention back to the screen. He had a mission to complete. He couldn't afford to be distracted. But even as he tried to focus, the thought of home lingered in his mind. Then, on day 35, something unexpected happened. While running routine system diagnostics, Sam detected a strange signal on the communications array. At first, he thought it was a glitch, a simple interference. But the signal was persistent, rhythmic, almost like a pattern. He couldn't ignore it. It was coming from deep within the asteroid belt, and it was unlike any signal they had encountered before. "Lena, Gabriel, Dr. Chong," Sam called. "I think we're picking up something. It's not a transmission from Earth or Mars. This is different." Lena approached, her curiosity piqued. "What do you mean different?" "It's a pattern," Sam said, eyes wide with excitement. "It could be natural, but it almost feels like someone is sending it." Gabriel leaned over to examine the data, his brow furrowed. "Are you sure it's not a glitch?" "I don't think so," Sam replied. "I've checked it. This is deliberate. I'm going to try and decode it." For the next few hours, Sam worked with the team to decipher the message. Every few minutes, a new chunk of data emerged, forming an encrypted pattern that only seemed to deepen the mystery. "What is this?" Lena asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Sam didn't have an answer, but for the first time in weeks, he felt a spark of something other than fear or homesickness. This was no longer just about Mars. They had stumbled upon something bigger, something that might change everything. The hours spent decoding the mysterious signal seemed to stretch into an eternity. Sam's fingers danced across the console, the glow of the screen reflecting in his wide eyes. The signal, a rhythmic pattern, was unlike anything they had encountered before. As the crew gathered around Sam's station, he felt the weight of their gazes on him. Everyone was silent, their breaths held in anticipation. After hours of trying various decryption algorithms, something clicked. Sam saw a pattern emerging from the chaos. "There's a sequence. It's a code," Sam muttered, his voice tinged with excitement. "I think it's a message." He hesitated for a moment, then typed in a final sequence. The screen flickered, and a string of characters appeared. As the team leaned closer, the letters slowly began to form words. "To the pioneers of space, we are watching. We know you are coming." A collective gasp swept through the crew. The message was simple, yet profound. It was impossible to ignore the implication. It was meant for them. Lena was the first to speak. "Who sent this?" Sam's fingers trembled as he scrolled through the code, hoping for more. The signal continued, but this time, the message was different. "We have been here before. Your arrival is not new. Proceed with caution." The room fell into a stunned silence. A sense of unease settled over the crew as the implications of the message began to sink in. "We've been here before?" Dr. Chung whispered. "Who are we?" Gabriel looked at the others, his face a mask of disbelief. "This doesn't make any sense. We're the first crew to travel this far." Sam felt a chill run down his spine. "I don't know what this means," he admitted, though he could feel his heart racing. This was bigger than any scientific mission they had signed up for. But it's clear. Whoever, or whatever, sent this message knew we were coming. After several more attempts to locate the source of the signal, the crew debated their next steps. "Do we investigate?" Lena asked, looking around the room. Her gaze settled on Sam. "We came here to make history, but this changes everything. We have to know more." Sam nodded slowly. "We can't ignore this. This could be a breakthrough in human history, or it could be a warning. Either way, we need to understand what it means before we reach Mars." The crew was divided, but the consensus was clear. They would venture into the asteroid belt to try and track down the source of the mysterious signal. "We'll alter course," Lena said, her voice calm but decisive. "But we do it as a team. Everyone stays sharp." It wasn't long before the Odyssey altered its course, moving deeper into the asteroid belt. As the crew worked in silence, Sam's mind raced. What could this message mean? Who had sent it? And why was it directed at them? As they approached the location where the signal seemed to be coming from, the crew prepared for the unknown. Sam, who had grown used to the routine of space travel, now felt an unfamiliar tension. There was a sense of foreboding in the air, as if something, or someone, was watching them. The asteroid belt was a desolate place. Millions of floating rocks, some as small as pebbles, others as large as cities, drifted through the vacuum. It was an eerie, beautiful sight. But now, As they approached the coordinates of the signal, it felt like the void was closing in around them. After several days of scanning, they finally found something. A large, oblong object, unlike anything they had seen before. It was buried within a cluster of asteroids, hidden from plain sight. The signal seemed to emanate from it. Gabriel piloted the Odyssey in for a closer look, expertly maneuvering through the maze of asteroids. As they neared the object, the crew couldn't believe their eyes. It was a massive structure, almost like a ship, but unlike any ship they had ever seen. It was covered in strange, geometric patterns that pulsed with a faint, blue glow. Sam's pulse quickened as they approached. The structure was not of human design. There was no doubt about it. "We need to get closer," Sam said, his voice barely above a whisper. Lena nodded. "Prepare the EVA suits. We're going outside." The crew suited up, the airlock sealing behind them as they floated out into the cold void of space. The object loomed in front of them, more surreal and breathtaking up close. As they floated toward the mysterious ship, Sam couldn't help but feel a sense of awe mixed with fear. The questions swirled in his mind. What was this structure? Who had built it? And why was it here? They reached the outer surface of the ship, and Sam felt his heart race. The geometric patterns that covered the hull seemed to shimmer in the vacuum of space, as though the ship itself was alive. "It's almost like a message," Dr. Chong said, tracing one of the glowing lines with her gloved finger. "A map? A history?" The crew gathered around, trying to make sense of the strange symbols. Sam moved cautiously, feeling the weight of the moment. This was the discovery of a lifetime. And yet, he couldn't shake the sense that they had uncovered something far beyond their comprehension. Then, just as they were about to begin their investigation, a strange vibration shook the spacecraft. A low hum reverberated through the ship, and the crew exchanged uneasy glances. "What's happening?" Lena demanded, her voice sharp. Sam glanced at the control panel on his wrist. "The object, it's powering up. The signal it's changing." Before they could react, the object emitted a powerful burst of energy, a shockwave that rocked the Odyssey. The crew scrambled to maintain their footing in space, but the blast sent them tumbling toward the asteroid field. The blast from the mysterious structure had sent the crew into chaos. For a brief moment, everything seemed to slow down, as if time itself was bending. Sam's heart pounded in his chest as he floated away from the Odyssey, helplessly tumbling toward the asteroid field. His suit's thrusters activated automatically, but the shockwave was too powerful. Sam quickly reoriented himself, engaging the thrusters in a desperate attempt to regain control. His movements were frantic, as the asteroids hurtled past him at breakneck speeds. The metal of his suit groaned against the pressure, and for a terrifying second, Sam thought he wouldn't be able to stop his tumble. "Sam!" Lena's voice crackled over the comms, sharp and urgent. "Do you copy? Sam, get back here now." Sam gritted his teeth, trying to steady his breath. He focused on the forward-facing thrusters and fired. The burst of force sent him shooting backward toward the Odyssey. He gripped the tether rope that was still attached to the spacecraft and pulled himself back into the relative safety of the airlock. "That was too close," Gabriel muttered, his voice tight as he secured Sam's tether. Lena was already at the airlock control panel. "We need to get back inside. Now." As the crew re-entered the ship, their hands still shaking from the adrenaline, Sam's mind raced. The shockwave was unlike anything they had anticipated. It felt like a warning, a direct response to their presence. But why? And who or what had triggered it? Inside the Odyssey, the crew rushed to assess the damage. The shockwave had caused a minor malfunction in the spacecraft's communication system and destabilized the course they had set toward the asteroid field. "We've lost communication with Earth," Gabriel said grimly, staring at the console. "And our trajectory is off. We need to recalculate our path before we end up too far out." "Is the ship stable?" Lena asked, her voice tense. "We're fine for now," Gabriel replied. "But we need to make sure the shields are holding. This was only a warning. If that ship decides to send another pulse, we may not be so lucky." Sam stepped back, his mind still whirling. The structure, the message, the shockwave. It was all too much to process in such a short amount of time. "We need to know what's inside that ship," Sam said, breaking the silence. "If this thing is alive, it's not just a technological anomaly. It's something else. Something with a purpose." Lena glanced at the crew, her expression resolute. "We don't know what we're dealing with, but we can't afford to turn back now. Let's head back to the ship. We need to analyze that signal and figure out our next move." Sam nodded, feeling a surge of determination. The strange object in the asteroid belt was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. They couldn't just ignore it. This was their chance to make an unprecedented discovery. "We'll gather more data," Sam said, "but this time, we'll be ready for anything." As the crew prepared to return to the object, Sam's mind swirled with questions. What kind of intelligence could be behind such a device? Who had built it? And more importantly, what was their intention with the crew of the Odyssey? This time, the crew approached with more caution. Gabriel piloted the Odyssey with practiced precision, avoiding the asteroid belt and making sure to stay a safe distance from the mysterious ship. Sam, Lena, and Dr. Chung suited up again, preparing to take another step into the unknown. "We'll take a closer look at the structure," Lena said. "This time, we're bringing the tools to investigate more thoroughly. Sam, I want you to monitor the ship systems for any changes. We need to be ready." The airlock doors opened once again, and the crew floated outside, tethered securely to the ship. The enigmatic structure loomed in front of them, its geometric patterns still glowing faintly. It felt like the ship was alive, pulsating with energy, as though it had a heartbeat. As Sam reached out to touch the surface of the strange craft, a strange vibration surged through the hull. He quickly pulled his hand away. "That wasn't me," Sam said, his voice tight. "Something's reacting to our presence." Lena motioned for everyone to stay back as she approached the surface of the ship. She traced one of the glowing lines with her gloved fingers, carefully examining the intricate patterns. The lines seemed to shift beneath her touch, forming new shapes and symbols, as if the ship was responding to her movements. "Do you see that?" Dr. Chung asked, her voice filled with wonder. "The symbols are changing, almost like it's trying to communicate." The crew exchanged looks, sensing that they were on the verge of something extraordinary. Suddenly, there was a low hum, a vibration that reverberated through the hull of the ship, resonating in their bones. Sam's heart skipped a beat as the lights around them flickered, and a deep, sonorous voice echoed in their helmets. "You have found us." The voice was not mechanical, but somehow human. The crew froze, their breath caught in their throats. Sam's mind raced. Was this a message? Or a trap? The voice continued. "You have crossed the threshold. Prepare to learn what you were never meant to know." Lena's voice came through, sharp and composed despite the uncertainty. "What do you want from us? What is this place?" The voice answered, "You are not the first to seek us, but you are the first to find the truth." The ship's glowing patterns shifted once more, and a doorway slowly opened, revealing an entrance into the dark recesses of the ship. The crew stood in stunned silence, the weight of the moment settling over them. They had just heard a message from an unknown intelligence, an intelligence that had been waiting for them. "What now?" Gabriel asked, his voice a mix of awe and fear. Sam looked at the crew, feeling the enormity of their decision. They had come so far, and now they were faced with an unimaginable choice. Enter the ship, or leave it behind. "We go inside," Sam said, his voice steady despite the questions swirling in his mind. "This is what we came for." And so, the crew of the Odyssey prepared to take their first steps into the unknown, knowing that whatever they discovered within that ship would change everything they thought they knew about the universe. As the crew entered the mysterious ship, a chilling silence surrounded them. The once faint glow of the exterior had dimmed to almost nothing, leaving them in total darkness except for the dim lights of their suits. The door closed behind them with an ominous hiss, sealing them inside the heart of the unknown. The interior of the ship was vast, far larger than the exterior suggested. It was like stepping into the cavernous depths of a forgotten temple, the air cold and sterile, yet filled with a strange energy that made the hairs on the back of Sam's neck stand on end. "Where are we?" Dr. Chung whispered, her voice reverberating in the silence. The walls were smooth and dark, with the same geometric patterns that pulsed gently, though without the earlier vibrancy. It was as if the ship itself was waiting for them. Lena led the way, her movements cautious but purposeful. "Stay close. We don't know what we're dealing with here." Sam's heart raced as they moved deeper into the ship. The walls seemed to shift subtly with each step, almost as if the entire structure was alive, aware of their presence. He couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't just walking through the ship, they were being watched. They continued down a long, winding corridor, the faint hum of the ship's systems the only sound. But every step they took felt like it was echoing an eternity, stretching the silence between them. The farther they went, the more the ship seemed to pulse with an unnatural rhythm, resonating with the very core of Sam's being. Finally, they reached a large chamber, its door opening with a soft hiss. Inside, the room was vast and circular, unlike anything Sam had imagined. At the center of the room was an enormous spherical structure, hovering slightly above the ground. It was surrounded by intricate, alien machinery, lines of glowing energy that connected to the sphere, creating a web of light that hummed softly. Lena stepped forward, her eyes wide with awe. "What is this place?" Dr. Chang moved to the side of the chamber, her hands tracing the alien symbols on the walls. "This is something ancient," she murmured. "Whoever built this ship, whoever designed this technology, knew things that we can't even comprehend." Sam, however, was fixated on the sphere at the center of the room. There was something about it that seemed alive, almost as if it was a beating heart. He couldn't explain why, but he felt drawn to it. "I don't like this," Gabriel said, his voice a low growl. "This place feels wrong." But Sam couldn't shake the pull. Without thinking, he moved closer to the sphere, his hand reaching out instinctively. As his fingers brushed against the surface, a surge of energy shot through his body, and his mind exploded in a flurry of images, fragments of distant stars, strange worlds, and faces of beings he had never seen. For a split second, Sam felt like he was floating outside his body, immersed in a vision that felt both alien and familiar. He saw flashes of a civilization, not human, but something else, something older, wiser, and more powerful. There were buildings that stretched into the sky, glowing cities on distant planets, and ships that sailed between the stars like it was nothing more than a leisurely walk. But then, as quickly as it came, the vision was gone, leaving Sam breathless and disoriented. He stumbled back, clutching his helmet as his pulse raced. "Sam? What happened?" Lena asked, her voice filled with concern. Sam could barely form words. I saw something. It was like memories, but not mine. This ship, these beings, they've been to other worlds. They've been everywhere. It was overwhelming." Lena's expression was unreadable as she stepped closer. "What do you think it means?" Before Sam could answer, the ship's hum shifted again, this time louder, more insistent. The sphere in the center of the room glowed brightly, and a holographic projection flickered to life in front of them. A series of symbols appeared, one after the other, rapidly flashing across the air. Sam's heart skipped a beat. It's showing us something." The symbols shifted into words, written in a language Sam couldn't understand, but they were accompanied by a voice. A calm, yet somehow unsettling voice echoed inside their helmets. "You seek knowledge, but the truth you seek is buried in the stars. The time for discovery is at hand. Proceed with caution. You are not alone." The voice lingered in the air for a moment before the projection flickered out, leaving the crew in stunned silence. Sam felt a cold sweat on his brow, and his mind raced to make sense of what he had just witnessed. "We're not alone?" Dr. Chang said, her voice shaking. "What does that mean?" Lena turned to the others, her expression a mix of determination and concern. "I don't know, but we need to find out. This ship is trying to tell us something. And whatever it is, it's not just a warning, it's a call to action." As the crew stood there, digesting the eerie message, Sam's eyes were drawn to the floor of the chamber. There, hidden beneath a thin layer of dust, was an intricate pattern, almost like a map etched into the ground. He bent down to examine it more closely. "It's a pathway," Sam said, his voice barely above a whisper. "This is a map to something." Lena walked over, crouching beside him. "It looks like a series of star systems, places we've never seen before." Sam's fingers traced the lines, feeling the energy coursing through the ship. "I think this is leading us to something important, but we're not the first to follow this path. That much is clear." The crew exchanged uneasy glances, the weight of the moment settling over them. They had stumbled upon something far more complex and far-reaching than they could have ever imagined. A civilization that had traveled beyond the stars. A warning that they weren't alone. But there was no turning back now. "We came here to make history," Lena said, her voice steady. "And this is part of it. We'll follow this path." Sam nodded, feeling the weight of her words. Whatever lay ahead, whatever the ship was trying to show them, it was beyond anything they could have anticipated. The crew, now united in their resolve, began to follow the map, moving deeper into the heart of the ship, where the answers they sought, answers that could change everything, waited to be revealed. The map on the floor glowed faintly beneath Sam's fingertips, illuminating their path forward. The ship, once silent, now hummed with a deep, resonant pulse, like a heartbeat guiding them deeper into its vast expanse. The crew exchanged glances, each of them feeling the magnitude of what they were about to undertake. The corridor ahead stretched long and dark, its walls lined with more of the shifting geometric patterns. The air felt heavy, charged with a palpable energy, as if the ship itself was coming alive around them. Lena led the way, her boots making soft echoes in the metallic hallway. "We need to stay sharp," she said, her voice resolute. "We don't know what we'll find at the end of this path, but whatever it is, we have to be ready for it." Sam walked closely behind her, his mind still reeling from the vision he had experienced earlier. The memory of the alien civilization, their advanced technology, their far-reaching influence, haunted him. And the warning that echoed in his helmet, "You are not alone," still lingered like a shadow, casting doubt on every step they took. "We're walking into the unknown," Gabriel muttered, his voice carrying a sense of foreboding. "I don't like it." But Lena didn't hesitate. She had always been a leader, her eyes focused on the mission ahead. "We're explorers," she said, determination in her voice. "And we've come too far to turn back now." As the crew continued down the winding corridor, the map began to shift beneath their feet. It wasn't just a path. It was a puzzle, revealing new directions as they advanced, each step unlocking a new layer of complexity. The walls around them began to glow brighter, the symbols and patterns now forming intricate constellations that seemed to map out distant star systems. Sam's heart pounded in his chest. "This is incredible," he whispered, his voice filled with awe. "It's showing us the way." Eventually, the winding path led them to a large, circular chamber, its center dominated by a massive holographic display. The walls of the room pulsed with energy, the same glowing lines of light swirling around them, like the very fabric of the ship's consciousness. The holographic projection at the center displayed a series of images, a series of star systems, galaxies, and cosmic phenomena. Lena stepped forward, her eyes glued to the hologram. "What is this?" Dr. Chong was the first to speak, her voice trembling with excitement. "It's a map of the universe, of galaxies we've never even seen. These stars, they're connected. It's like a web, stretching across space and time." Sam watched in awe as the display shifted, showing a complex network of cosmic pathways, almost like roads carved through the fabric of space. "It's showing us more than just maps of stars," he said. "It's showing us how they're connected, how civilizations might have traveled between them." Lena's eyes narrowed, piecing together the puzzle. "This is it. This is the purpose of this ship. This is a network for intergalactic travel." But Sam wasn't convinced. Something about the display felt off. As he stared at the holographic map, the image flickered, and for a moment, a dark spot appeared. A point on the map that seemed to pulsate with an unsettling energy. "What is that?" Sam whispered, his voice barely audible. The map zoomed in on the dark spot, and the crew collectively gasped. The location was a distant galaxy, one they didn't recognize. But what caught their attention wasn't the galaxy itself. It was the swirling, black mass at its center. That's not a star, Dr. Chang said, her voice tinged with fear. That's something else. Lena stared at the display, her brow furrowed. What do you mean? What is it? Before Dr. Chang could answer, the ship's hum intensified, the energy in the room growing more oppressive. The dark mass on the map seemed to pulse, its influence spreading across the display, darkening the once vibrant stars surrounding it. Sam felt a cold shiver run down his spine. It feels like it's alive. The voice from earlier echoed once again, this time louder and more urgent. You are drawing closer to the heart of the void. Beware the darkness within. It is not a force to be trifled with. The voice reverberated in their helmets, shaking them to the core. The crew looked at each other, fear creeping into their hearts. But Lena was the first to regain her composure. We need to know more, she said, her voice firm. We can't stop now. We have to understand what this darkness is. Gabriel was the first to speak up, his voice laced with caution. Lena, are you sure about this? We're talking about something that's beyond anything we've encountered. This darkness, whatever it is, could be dangerous. We don't know what it could do to us. Lena hesitated, the weight of the decision heavy on her shoulders. She turned to Sam, who stood frozen in thought. His mind raced as he processed the voice's warning and the strange energy emanating from the dark mass on the map. But he couldn't ignore the pull of discovery. I think we have to keep going, Sam said, his voice steady despite the uncertainty. This ship brought us here for a reason. We need to understand what's out there. Lena nodded. Agreed. We're explorers. This is what we've trained for. The crew exchanged one last glance, their faces a mix of fear and resolve. They had already come too far to turn back now. As the crew moved deeper into the ship, following the path laid out by the mysterious map, they could feel the weight of the decision pressing down on them. Every step brought them closer to the unknown, closer to the darkness at the heart of the galaxy. But Sam couldn't help but wonder. What if they were walking into something far more powerful, far more dangerous than they could possibly imagine? What if they weren't meant to find it? The voice still echoed in his mind. Beware the darkness within. And as they journeyed further into the depths of the alien ship, Sam couldn't shake the feeling that they were crossing a threshold that should never have been crossed. The atmosphere inside the ship grew heavier as the crew made their way deeper into the labyrinthine corridors. Each step seemed to pull them further into the unknown, toward a mystery they could not yet comprehend. The warning from the voice still reverberated in their minds. Beware the darkness within. But there was no turning back now. Sam walked ahead, his heart pounding in his chest, but his determination stronger than his fear. The map on the floor led them down a narrow passage, its walls now covered in strange symbols that pulsed with an eerie, unearthly glow. The further they went, the more the temperature seemed to drop, and the air grew thick with the hum of unknown energies. Do you feel that? Lena asked, her voice tense as she looked around at the darkening walls. I do, Dr. Chang said, her eyes darting nervously. It's like we're walking into the very core of the ship itself. Whatever is ahead, it's not just a place. It's alive. Sam couldn't help but agree. The entire ship felt like a living, breathing organism, its intentions unreadable. The map, once a guide, had become less reliable, shifting unpredictably with every step they took. But still, they pressed on, driven by the promise of discovery, or perhaps the need to understand something far greater than they were capable of imagining. Suddenly, the narrow corridor opened into a vast chamber, its size almost incomprehensible. The walls were covered in what looked like ancient machinery, cables and conduits snaking up and down like veins of some forgotten giant. In the center of the room stood a massive structure, its form partially obscured by shadow, but the faint outline of something unmistakable lingered in the dim light. It's a machine, Lena said quietly, awe and fear in her voice. But it's nothing like we've ever seen. Sam stepped forward, his pulse quickening as he approached the towering structure. The shape of it was unlike anything in their known science, a fusion of organic and technological, as though a living being had been fused with a machine. The surface of the structure shifted slowly, as if responding to their presence. As they neared the structure, the air crackled with energy. A low rumble reverberated through the room, and the lights above flickered, casting long shadows across the chamber. Without warning, the structure pulsed, releasing a wave of energy that made the walls shudder. "Back!" Lena shouted, pushing Sam and the others away. But it was too late. The structure began to unfold, revealing its true form. A massive, organic entity, partially covered by mechanical plating, its tendrils reaching out like the roots of an ancient tree. The dark mass on the map, the source of the ominous energy, was now before them, a living, breathing thing. Sam froze, his mind reeling. The darkness, the warning, it was here, in front of them. The creature, or whatever it was, moved with terrifying grace, its glowing eyes turning to meet theirs. A deep, resonant voice filled the room, the same voice they had heard before, only now it was much louder, more present. "Welcome, travelers. You have come far." Lena instinctively reached for her weapon, but Sam stopped her, sensing the immense intelligence of the creature. "Wait," he said, his voice steady. "Let's hear what it has to say." The creature's tendrils continued to writhe and twist, as if it was communicating with itself before it spoke again. "I have watched you, watched your species, your kind, for eons. I have seen the rise and fall of worlds, the birth and death of civilizations. You are not the first to reach this place, nor will you be the last. But you are the first to approach with understanding." Sam stepped closer, his curiosity overcoming his fear. "What is this place? What are you?" The entity's eyes flickered with something resembling recognition. "I am a seed, a fragment of a greater whole. I was sent here long ago, a part of something ancient, something vast. I am the keeper of knowledge, the gateway to the void." The words sent a chill through Sam's bones. "The void?" "Yes," the creature replied, its voice growing softer, more deliberate. "The void is not just a place. It is a force, a space between the stars, between worlds. It is the dark matter that binds the universe together." Sam felt his mind spinning as he tried to process the enormity of what the entity was saying. "And the darkness on the map? That's the void?" "The darkness is not something to be feared," the creature continued. "It is the essence of all that is. It is the beginning and the end. It is what drives the universe forward, what pulls the stars into existence and consumes them when their time is done. It is both creation and destruction, in equal measure." Lena's voice broke the silence, her disbelief clear. "Are you saying that the universe, our universe, was shaped by the void?" The creature's eyes dimmed, almost sorrowful. "Yes. And you, your kind, are but a small part of it. You seek knowledge, but the truth is this. The void is not something you can understand. It is beyond comprehension, but you can choose to be a part of it. You can choose to harness its power." Sam's stomach churned at the thought. And what would we have to do to harness it? The creature's form seemed to pulse, and the chamber around them vibrated with the hum of ancient energy. "You must give yourself to it. You must become one with the void. Only then will you truly understand the cosmos." Sam felt a wave of cold dread wash over him. The creature was offering something unimaginable, something that could change everything. But at what cost? He turned to Lena, whose expression was unreadable, as if she, too, was grappling with the enormity of the decision. Gabriel stood a few steps behind them, his hand tight around his weapon, his face grim. "What do we do?" Sam whispered, his voice barely audible. Lena's eyes flickered with uncertainty before settling on the creature. "We came here to discover the unknown. But this is different. This is power, dangerous power." The creature's tendrils reached out slowly, gently, as though trying to draw them closer. "You have the opportunity to transcend, to reach beyond your limits. All you must do is accept the void's gift." Sam's heart raced. The temptation to accept the offer was overwhelming, the promise of unimaginable knowledge and power hanging in the air like a tantalizing dream. But he knew better than to fall for such an easy answer. "I don't know if we should trust you," Sam said quietly, his voice filled with doubt. "What's the catch?" The creature's eyes darkened, its voice becoming more insistent. "There is no catch, only choice. Choose wisely, for your path will shape the future of your species. The void is eternal. You are but a fleeting moment in time. The room fell silent. The crew stood at the crossroads of fate, facing a choice that could either elevate humanity or doom it forever. The room felt suspended in time, the heavy tension in the air palpable as the crew of the luminous horizon stood before the ancient being. The entity's voice echoed in their minds, urging them toward a decision that could reshape everything they knew. Sam's heart raced as the weight of their choices pressed down on him. Sam could feel the pull of the creature's offer. The promise of infinite knowledge and power was intoxicating, an allure that beckoned to the deepest parts of his being. He could imagine a future where humanity rose to unprecedented heights, where the stars themselves were within their grasp. But there was something in the back of his mind, a nagging voice that told him this path was too dangerous, that accepting the gift of the void would come at an unimaginable cost. The creature was ancient, its motives shrouded in mystery. Could they truly trust it? Lena stepped forward, her voice cutting through the silence. This is not what we came for. We didn't come here to gain power. We came to learn, to understand, to help humanity. We cannot take a gift from a being like this, not without knowing the consequences. The creature's eyes flashed in response, almost amused. Knowledge is power, Captain Lena, and to truly help your species, you must understand the depths of the universe. Only then will you realize what you are truly capable of. Gabriel's hand clenched tighter around his weapon, his face a mask of doubt and fear. This is beyond anything we've ever encountered. We can't just accept something so alien. We don't even understand what it is. What happens if we take this power? What happens to us? The entity's tendrils slowly swayed, and its voice grew softer, more persuasive. What happens to you is up to you. The void offers no judgment, only choice. Embrace it, and you will be bound to the cosmos in a way no human has ever been. Reject it, and you may live your life, but you will never understand the true nature of existence. Sam's mind raced as he considered the implications. What was the void? Was it truly a source of knowledge, as the creature claimed? Or was it something far darker, something that could consume them all? Suddenly, the creature's form shifted, and a wave of energy pulsed through the room. Sam felt a strange sensation wash over him, as if his mind were expanding, stretching beyond the confines of his body. Images flashed before his eyes. Visions of distant galaxies, worlds in the process of being born, civilizations rising and falling in the blink of an eye. He saw Earth, his home, teeming with life, but then the vision shifted, showing a future where humanity had embraced the void, using its power to leap across the stars, to conquer new worlds. It was a future of boundless opportunity, but also one marked by violence, by unchecked ambition, and by the corruption of power. But then, another vision came. This one darker, more unsettling. He saw the void itself, not as a force of creation, but as a consuming darkness, swallowing entire civilizations whole, erasing them from existence. The void was not just a source of knowledge. It was a force of entropy, of destruction, capable of wiping out everything in its path. He gasped, breaking free from the vision, and staggered backward. No, this isn't what I saw. This can't be. The entity's voice filled his mind, its tone now laced with warning. You have seen only a fragment of what the void can do. The future is not written, but the path you choose will determine the fate of your species. Do not let fear guide your decision. Accept the gift, and you will transcend your limitations. Lena was the first to speak, her voice resolute. We can't let this entity make our decisions for us. We are explorers, but we are also human. We cannot risk everything for a promise of power. We must return to Earth with what we have learned, but we will not fall into the trap of the void. Dr. Chong, her face pale, nodded. Lena's right. The cost of this knowledge, whatever it is, might be too high. We don't know what kind of consequences we would face if we embraced the void. Sam stood there, his mind torn between the temptation of the unknown and the heavy responsibility that came with making the right choice. What would humanity do with the knowledge of the void? Could they control it, or would they be consumed by it? He turned to face the creature one last time. We reject your offer. We will not accept the void's gift. For a moment, the creature remained silent. Its glowing eyes dimmed, and its tendrils retracted slightly, as if disappointed. So be it, the entity intoned, its voice now cold and distant. You have chosen your path. But remember, knowledge, once glimpsed, can never be unseen. You may choose to walk away now, but the void will always be with you, watching. And it will wait for those who are ready to embrace it. With a final, resounding pulse of energy, the room fell silent. The entity's form collapsed into itself, fading into the darkness from which it had emerged. The glowing symbols on the walls flickered one last time before fading away entirely, leaving the crew standing in an eerie stillness. Lena took a deep breath, her hands still trembling slightly. "We did the right thing," she said, though her voice lacked the certainty it once had. Gabriel nodded, though his expression was pensive. "But the void, it's still out there, isn't it? It will never stop calling." Dr. Chong was quiet for a moment before speaking, her voice soft. "We don't know what the future holds, but we can't let fear dictate our actions. We have to be smarter than that. We have to make our own choices." Sam stood by the doorway, staring at the place where the entity had once stood. The weight of their decision settled over him, but it was a weight he could live with. They had chosen humanity's future, not a future dictated by an ancient, unknowable force. The crew made their way back to the luminous horizon, their hearts heavy but resolute. The ship's engines hummed to life, the familiar hum filling the air as they prepared for their return journey to Earth. They had learned more than they had ever imagined, but the knowledge they carried was a double-edged sword. As the ship prepared to break through the atmosphere, Sam couldn't help but glance at the distant stars. The void was still out there, waiting, and while they had made their choice, he knew this was not the end of their journey. It was only the beginning. "The void will always be with us," he whispered, knowing that, one day, they would have to confront it again. As the luminous horizon broke through the dense atmosphere of the alien planet, the weight of the decision they had just made hung heavily on the crew. They had rejected the creature's offer, a gift that promised to elevate humanity beyond their wildest dreams. But now, in the aftermath, there was an unsettling silence, an awareness that the universe was far larger and far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. The journey back to Earth felt both strangely long and absurdly short. The vastness of space, once a source of wonder, now felt empty, as though the infinite distance between stars was a reminder of the knowledge they had just discarded. Sam spent long hours at the helm, his fingers hovering over the controls, but his thoughts were elsewhere, back in that dark chamber, facing the entity. Lena kept to herself, her mind running through the events over and over. Had they made the right decision? Could they have controlled the power of the void if they had chosen differently? Or had they narrowly escaped a fate worse than death? Gabriel, as usual, was quiet, but the tension between the crew members was palpable. They had all been changed by the experience, though none of them were willing to speak about it openly. The decision to reject the void was a weight they would carry, whether they realized it or not. Dr. Chong was the first to break the silence. She found Sam alone in the control room, staring out into the star-filled void. "We did the right thing, didn't we?" she asked, her voice hesitant. Sam didn't answer immediately. His eyes were focused on the horizon of Earth, the blue and green planet growing larger in their view. The crew had all signed up for exploration, for discovery. But they hadn't expected to encounter a force so ancient and unfathomable. "I think we did," Sam said finally, his voice steady but tinged with uncertainty. "But I'll never stop wondering what might have been. What could we have done with that kind of power? What if rejecting it means we've doomed ourselves to mediocrity?" Dr. Chong shook her head, her eyes reflecting the faint glow of the stars. "I don't think rejecting it means mediocrity. It means we're human. We make mistakes, but we learn from them. And maybe we don't need to control everything. Sometimes, the most important discoveries are the ones that teach us what not to do." Sam smiled faintly, appreciating her perspective. "Maybe you're right." As Earth loomed closer, the ship's autopilot engaged, guiding them toward their home planet. They would land at a secure location, away from public attention. The knowledge they had gathered, the true scope of what they had discovered, was too dangerous to be revealed in its entirety. There were things humanity wasn't ready to understand, things that could shatter their entire worldview. But Sam knew the time would come when they would have to face those realities. The void had made itself known to them, and in time, it would make itself known to the rest of the universe. "I hope we made the right choice," Sam muttered under his breath as he prepared for the landing sequence. "We'll find out soon enough," Lena said, joining him at the control console. Her expression was hard to read, but her determination was clear. Back on Earth, the crew was met with a media frenzy. The luminous horizon had become an iconic symbol of humanity's first steps into the unknown, but no one would ever know the true nature of their journey. They couldn't reveal what they had encountered, what they had almost become. But as Sam stood in front of a crowd of reporters, his heart pounding, he realized that the hardest part wasn't the decision they had made in the dark chamber. It was what came afterward. The knowledge that the void was still out there, watching, waiting for the next curious soul brave enough to seek its power. They had rejected the void, but the void had not rejected them. As time passed, the crew members went their separate ways. Sam returned to his position at the head of the Space Exploration Division, though the shadows of his encounter with the entity followed him. Lena continued her work as captain, but with a new sense of caution. Gabriel disappeared into the vast reaches of space once more, seeking solace in the stars. Dr. Chang, however, was the one who seemed most affected. She poured herself into research, not just on the alien planet they had visited, but on the nature of the universe itself. The questions the void had raised refused to leave her mind. The years that followed brought the world closer to the stars, as space exploration continued to advance at a pace never before seen. But Sam knew that with every new discovery, the question would remain. How long before humanity would once again face the temptation of the void? One fateful day, while Sam was reviewing reports in his office, a notification blinked on his screen. An anomaly had been detected, something that didn't belong. It was deep in space, far beyond the reach of human technology. A strange signal, faint but unmistakable. For a moment, his heart stopped. It was the same kind of signal they had encountered when they first made contact with the entity. A signal from the void. He leaned back in his chair, staring at the screen, his mind racing. Could it be? Was it a warning? Or had the void found them once again, ready to call on humanity to join it? Would they face the same choice again? Sam looked out his window, the earth below him, the stars stretching endlessly above. He thought of the crew, of the choices they had made. They had walked away from the void, but now, it seemed, the void was calling them back. And this time, he wasn't sure if they would be able to resist. The eerie, faint signal persisted. Days turned into weeks, and yet, the message had not ceased. The anomaly deep in space, a signal from beyond the known universe, beckoned them once again. Sam couldn't shake the feeling that the void had found them. Perhaps it had always been waiting, hidden, in the silence of space. Sam sat in his office, staring at the blinking message on his screen. He had tried to ignore it, but the signal was relentless. Each time he thought he had moved on from the encounter with the ancient entity, it seemed to draw him back, like a moth to a flame. What if it was the same entity, trying to make contact once again? What if it was something new, something even more dangerous? He couldn't keep it to himself. He called Lena, Gabriel, and Dr. Chang to a secure meeting room, aware that their decision would impact not just the crew, but the entire human race. Lena was the first to speak as she entered, her expression as stern as ever. "What's this all about, Sam?" she asked, her tone sharp. "I've seen the reports, and I don't like what I'm reading." Sam hesitated. "It's the void, or something that feels like it." Dr. Chang, who had been poring over the data, looked up with a furrowed brow. "I've analyzed the signal, and it's unmistakable. There's a pattern to it, a frequency that matches the one we encountered. But this time, it's different. Stronger. Almost like it's reaching out, calling to us." Gabriel, always the skeptic, frowned. "What makes you so sure it's the same thing? We've been through this before. We chose not to embrace the void, and we need to stick to that." But Sam knew it wasn't that simple. He had spent countless nights thinking about the choices they had made on the alien planet. The more he thought about it, the more he realized the void wasn't something that could just be walked away from. It was a part of them now, something that had touched their lives in ways they couldn't fully understand. "We can't just ignore it," Sam said quietly. "I've tried, but it won't stop. It's a pull I can't ignore, and I know you all feel it too. The question is, do we face it, or do we try to bury it forever?" Lena's face softened slightly. "You're right," she admitted, "but I don't think we're ready. What if this is the universe testing us again? What if it's a trap?" Dr. Chung spoke up, her voice filled with determination. "The truth is, we've never truly escaped the void. We rejected it once, but we've learned so much about it, about the nature of the universe. This signal, it's offering us the answers we've been looking for. Whether we like it or not, it's asking us to choose again." Days passed in tense silence as the crew prepared for their next move. Each of them wrestled with the same question. What should they do? The temptation to answer the signal, to learn what lay beyond, was powerful. But the fear of what they might unleash was even greater. Sam spent hours alone, sitting in the dark, thinking back to the moment when they had first encountered the void. The choice had been clear then: reject its offer, preserve humanity. But now, the lines were blurred. The more he thought about the possibilities, the more the allure of knowledge and power seemed to tug at his soul. Lena, on the other hand, was resolute. She believed they had made the right decision in the past, and she was determined not to falter now. "We rejected it once, Sam. We can do it again." But Sam wasn't so sure. The void had a way of creeping into your mind, of filling the empty spaces with promises. He could already feel it, the whisper in the back of his mind, the lure of something greater than himself, something beyond their understanding. The void wasn't just a threat. It was a call to transcend, to become something more. Gabriel's face was tense as he studied the data. "We've faced this before, and we've chosen. But what happens if we say yes this time? What if rejecting it is just delaying the inevitable? We may never get another chance like this." After much deliberation, the crew decided to travel to the coordinates where the signal originated, a remote part of the galaxy far beyond any human reach. They knew the risks, but the allure of the unknown was too strong to ignore. Sam couldn't shake the feeling that this was their final opportunity to understand the true nature of the void. As they approached the coordinates, the signal grew louder, more insistent. The ship's systems began to flicker, as if something was reaching out, testing them. The crew members sat in silence, each of them preparing for what might come next. Lena stood up, her voice steady. "We don't have to do this. We've made it this far without the void's influence. We don't need to let it control us now." But Sam's voice was low, almost resigned. "I don't know if we have a choice anymore, Lena. This isn't about power or control. It's about understanding the universe in ways we never thought possible." The luminous horizon arrived at the source of the signal, and what they found was more incredible than anything they had imagined. A massive, ancient structure, floating in the heart of a dark nebula. It wasn't of human design, and it was unlike anything they had ever seen. An immense, black monolith, covered in intricate symbols that seemed to shimmer and shift as though alive. It was as though the void itself had manifested in physical form, awaiting their arrival. The crew docked the ship and stepped into the structure, their hearts pounding. The air was thick with a strange energy, and Sam could feel the pull of the void, stronger than ever. They walked deeper into the structure, the walls alive with shifting patterns, each symbol resonating with a strange, almost hypnotic rhythm. And then, in the center of the chamber, the creature appeared. It was not the same as before, but it was unmistakable. The entity, now fully formed, loomed before them, its eyes glowing with a piercing intensity. "Welcome back," it said, its voice resonating in their minds. "You have come to understand. Will you choose to embrace the void?" Sam looked around at his crew, the weight of the decision heavy in the air. They had faced this moment before, but now it felt different. The void was not just a force of destruction. It was an invitation, an opportunity to transcend. "We rejected you before," Sam said, his voice steady, but uncertain. "But now, we know more. We understand more. But we don't know if we can trust you." The entity's form shimmered, almost as though it was smiling. Trust is irrelevant. The void does not need trust. It needs acceptance. You have seen what could be. The question now is, will you become more, or remain as you are? As the entity's voice echoed in their minds, the crew stood silent, each of them grappling with the decision that would shape the rest of their lives and the future of humanity. The temptation of power, of knowledge, was strong. But was it worth the cost? This time, Sam wasn't sure what the right choice was. Would embracing the void offer them the answers they sought, or would it consume them all? The entity's presence was overwhelming, its voice a symphony of alien understanding that vibrated through the very core of Sam's being. Every word was like a pull, a gravity that threatened to crush him with the weight of what it was offering. It wasn't just a choice. It was a fork in the road that could change everything they knew about existence. The crew stood frozen, caught in the stillness of the moment. The entity's words hung in the air, thick with meaning, and the silence between them felt impossibly heavy. The choice was simple, yet its consequences loomed over them like an insurmountable mountain. Will you become more, or remain as you are? The entity's voice echoed again, as if the question was meant for every single one of them. Sam's mind raced. He could feel the pull of the void in the deepest parts of his thoughts. The temptation to embrace it was like nothing he had ever known. A promise of infinite knowledge, unimaginable power, and an understanding of the universe beyond human comprehension. But at what cost? The void wasn't just about gaining power. It was about leaving behind the very essence of humanity, the very thing that made them who they were. It would be the end of everything they had ever known. Sam thought back to their previous encounter with the void. He had rejected it then, but the memory was no longer as clear-cut as it had been. Now, in the face of the unknown, the line between right and wrong blurred. Lena's gaze was steady, but there was a flicker of doubt in her eyes. "Sam," she said quietly, "we can't risk it. We saw what it could do. It's not just about becoming more. It's about losing everything that makes us human. We're not supposed to wield this kind of power." Her words were firm, but Sam could see the conflict in her face. She wasn't sure if the choice was as simple as rejecting it. After all, they had already encountered the void once before. Would rejecting it again mean that they were forever turning their backs on the future? Gabriel's expression was unreadable, but his eyes were intense, focused. What if Lena is right? What if we walk away again, only to have this come back and haunt us forever? This thing, it could give us the power to do things humanity has never dreamed of. But can we control it? Can we trust it? Dr. Chong, who had been quiet until now, stepped forward, her eyes filled with resolve. "I don't think we can walk away from this," she said, her voice steady. "Not anymore. We've already encountered something that has changed us, whether we admit it or not. The question now is what we do with that knowledge. If we leave it behind, we'll be forever bound by it. But if we embrace it, we risk losing everything. There is no middle ground here." Sam felt a chill run down his spine as he looked at the faces of his crew. Each of them was grappling with the same uncertainty. None of them had an answer, but all of them knew that this was the final test, the one they could not ignore. The entity's form rippled in front of them, its presence a dark swirl of energy that seemed to press in from all directions. Sam could feel his mind being pulled in, the promise of something greater whispering just beyond his reach. The void wasn't just about power. It was about transcendence, about becoming something more than human. The thought of understanding the fundamental secrets of the universe, of knowing everything from the beginning of time to the end of existence, was almost too much to resist. What could humanity achieve if they embraced the void? But then, a stark realization hit him. Did they even have a choice? The void had always been there, waiting in the shadows. Maybe it had never been about choosing. Maybe it was about succumbing. Could they truly resist it forever? Or would it continue to call to them, just as it had now? "I need to know," Sam said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. "What happens if we reject you again? Will we be left alone? Or will you come for us?" The entity's form shifted, its eyes gleaming as it spoke with an eerie calmness. Rejection does not mean freedom. It is simply a denial of what is. The void is eternal. It will wait for the next opportunity, just as it has waited for you. Lena shook her head. This is a trick. It's trying to make us believe we have no choice, that rejecting it means we'll be hunted. But that's exactly what it wants, to make us fear it. Gabriel nodded in agreement. We don't fear it, but we can't afford to become it either. If we take that power, we risk becoming something else, something no longer human. Sam's heart raced. He could feel the weight of his decision. Every instinct told him that embracing the void would mean everything he had ever known would change forever. The world as they knew it would crumble. He would never be the same again. But there was another part of him, one that couldn't ignore the desire to understand the mysteries that lay just out of reach. Was it really so wrong to want more? To reach beyond the limitations of humanity and unlock the secrets of the universe? A sudden clarity hit him. It wasn't just about rejecting the void or embracing it. It was about accepting the truth of what the void represented, not as something to be feared or conquered, but as something that simply was. The void wasn't evil. It wasn't good. It was a force beyond morality, beyond understanding. The true choice was not between power and submission. It was between continuing to fight for what they thought they understood, or stepping into the unknown and allowing themselves to evolve. I've made my decision, Sam said, standing up straighter, his voice steady. I won't let fear dictate what we do. We're human, and that's what makes us strong. We're not meant to transcend. Not like this. We don't need the void to define us. Lena's face softened with relief. You're right, Sam. We've come this far without it. We'll continue to fight for what makes us human. Gabriel stepped forward, his eyes filled with resolve. Let's go. The void may be powerful, but we're more powerful together. Dr. Chung nodded, her voice firm. We made the right choice before, and we'll make it again. The entity's form pulsed one last time, a wave of energy flooding the room. But this time, there was no persuasion, no coercion. It was simply a recognition of their decision. The void withdrew, fading into the darkness of space, as if acknowledging their defiance. As the crew left the ancient structure behind, they knew they had made the right choice. They hadn't just rejected the void, they had embraced the unknown. And in doing so, they had reaffirmed their commitment to humanity. They had chosen to walk away from the temptation of transcendence, knowing that some mysteries were meant to remain unsolved. Some powers were too dangerous to wield. As they returned to their ship, Sam looked out at the stars. The universe was vast, and they had barely scratched its surface. But for now, they were content. They had made their choice, and they would live with it, knowing that the future was theirs to shape. As the crew made their way back to their ship, the weight of their decision hung in the air like an invisible fog. The void was behind them now, but its presence lingered, haunting their thoughts in a way they had never expected. They had chosen humanity over transcendence, but the question remained. Had they made the right choice? Could they ever truly be free of the pull the void had left in their minds? The ship hummed softly, its engines a comforting reminder of their connection to Earth, the place that had been their home all along. But even as they prepared to depart the alien world, the stars outside seemed different, more distant, as though they had seen too much of the universe in too short a time. Sam leaned against the window, staring out into the infinite expanse. It was hard to believe everything they had encountered, the ancient ruins, the entity, the choice that had changed everything. They had gone into space seeking answers, but now, after facing the void, Sam wasn't sure there was a simple answer to anything anymore. Lena sat beside him, her eyes tired but focused. You're thinking about it again, aren't you? She asked softly, her voice carrying the weight of understanding. Sam nodded. I can't help it. The void. It's hard to shake off. It feels like something we weren't supposed to know about, something that wasn't meant for us. I know what you mean, Lena said, but we made the choice we had to make. Humanity is about imperfection, about living with uncertainty and still finding meaning. It's not about being perfect or transcendent. It's about being present. We can't let the void take that from us. Sam sighed and looked out the window again. He didn't feel reassured, but there was something in Lena's words that gave him a sense of peace. They had chosen to walk away from the void, but perhaps it was that very choice that made them more human than ever. As the ship left the alien planet's orbit and charted a course back to Earth, something unexpected happened. A communication signal suddenly pulsed through their system, an urgent message. It wasn't from Earth. It wasn't from any civilization they knew. The transmission was a string of unintelligible symbols at first, before it settled into a recognizable language. The crew gathered in the command center, their faces lit by the flickering lights of the console. "Who could this be?" Gabriel asked, his voice tense. "I don't know," Sam said, his brow furrowed. "But I don't like it. Not after everything we've just been through." Lena stepped forward, her fingers hovering over the controls. "Let's decode it. Maybe it's a warning." The message was deciphered in moments. It was a cryptic warning, though the meaning wasn't immediately clear. The void is not gone. It waits. And those who reject it will never be free. "We will find you." The words struck like a blow, and the room fell silent. Sam's heart raced. The void had found them, even after they had chosen to leave it behind. But how? And why? Dr. Chung stood up, her face a mask of concern. "This could be a message from the same entity that we encountered. But why contact us now, after everything?" "Because it knows us," Gabriel said grimly. "It knows that we're not truly free from it. Not yet." Sam rubbed his temples, trying to process the message. "We were warned. That much is clear. But how do we fight something that never truly leaves us?" Lena placed a hand on his shoulder, grounding him. "We're not alone in this. We never were. We made our choice, and now we have to live with it. But that doesn't mean we're powerless." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. The crew was torn between their fear of the void's return and their determination to remain true to their humanity. They had made the right choice, but that didn't mean the struggle was over. As they continued their journey toward Earth, the crew spent hours in the command center, discussing what had happened. The message had shaken them to their core, but it also sparked something else, an understanding that their encounter with the void was not over, and they would need to find a way to live with the knowledge it had given them. "I think we've been looking at this all wrong," Dr. Chong said one evening, her voice thoughtful. "The void isn't just a force to be feared or avoided. It's something that has always been there. Part of the universe. Maybe even part of us. We can't fight it or ignore it forever." Sam looked at her, startled. "Are you saying we should embrace it?" "No," Dr. Chong said quickly, shaking her head. "What I'm saying is that we need to accept it, not as something outside of us, but as something that exists within us all. The void is part of the human experience. It's the unknown, the thing that drives us forward. We don't have to let it define us, but we can't pretend it's not there." Lena considered her words, then nodded slowly. "We can't control it, but we don't need to. We just need to keep moving forward. As long as we stay true to what we are, there's nothing it can take from us." Gabriel smiled faintly. "It's not about defeating the void. It's about surviving it. About continuing our journey, no matter what." The journey home was long, but the closer they came to Earth, the more Sam felt the weight of the universe lighten. The void had been a challenge, a temptation, but in the end, it had shown them something fundamental, that the unknown could only be faced when they accepted their humanity and embraced the unpredictability of life. When the ship finally touched down on Earth, it was as if the world itself had changed. They had seen the stars, touched the void, and returned home. They were forever different, but they were also more human than ever before. The world around them was unchanged, yet everything felt new. They had faced the unknown and chosen to embrace the mystery of life, rather than trying to conquer it. Sam stood in the doorway of the ship, looking out at the familiar landscape. The sky above him stretched endlessly, full of possibilities. The void was behind them, but the universe was still waiting. And he was ready. The ship's hatch creaked open, the air of Earth rushing in, cool and familiar after months of intergalactic travel. The crew stepped onto the landing pad, their legs stiff from the long journey, but their minds still swirling with the unknown. They had returned, but the weight of their experiences hung heavy in the air around them. The world they once knew had shifted, and they had been irrevocably changed. Sam stood at the edge of the landing platform, his eyes scanning the horizon. The sky was a canvas of soft blues and yellows, the sun rising over a world that seemed too ordinary for the extraordinary experiences they had just endured. He was back on Earth, but it felt different, as though the universe had expanded in his mind to include both the vastness of space and the deep complexities of the human condition. Lena, ever the realist, stepped up beside him. "It's strange, isn't it?" she asked. "We went so far, saw so much, but now we're here. And it feels like nothing's changed. Like we never left." Sam chuckled softly. "Yeah, but maybe that's the beauty of it. No matter what we've been through, the world keeps turning. People keep going about their lives, just as they always have. But we've seen the edge of everything, and that changes us." Lena nodded, her eyes reflecting both the weight of their journey and the promise of the future. "I think that's the hardest part. We have this knowledge, this understanding, but we can't share it with anyone. They'll never understand what we've been through." Sam's gaze drifted toward the horizon again. "Maybe they don't need to. We carry it with us, and that's enough. We don't need to change the world all at once, but we do need to keep moving forward. There's still so much more to explore." As the crew disembarked, Earth's authorities were waiting for them. Media crews had already begun to assemble, cameras flashing as they captured the moment of their return. For the world, this was the greatest event in human history. The first crew to return from deep space, having encountered the unknown, having survived the void itself. Sam stood in front of the microphones, his thoughts elsewhere. He had grown used to the questions, the usual inquiries about their mission, the discoveries they had made, and the challenges they had faced. But nothing could prepare him for the one question that lingered on the lips of every reporter. "What's next for humanity? What have you learned that can change the course of our future?" It was a question Sam had been avoiding ever since their return. They had encountered the void, rejected it, and survived. But the implications were still unclear. Had they really learned anything? Or had they just faced a force too powerful to comprehend? "We've learned that humanity is defined by the unknown," Sam began, his voice steady despite the weight of the question. "We're not defined by the things we can control, but by the mysteries we choose to face. And we've learned that some things, some mysteries, are better left unsolved. We don't need to transcend. We just need to live, to keep pushing forward, no matter how uncertain the future may be." There was a long pause, and for a moment, the reporters seemed uncertain how to respond. Then, as if guided by instinct, the flood of questions began again. But Sam's words lingered, sinking into the minds of everyone who heard them. The world had returned to normal, but the seeds of a new understanding had been planted. In the weeks that followed, the world's focus shifted. Governments and scientific organizations scrambled to process the data the crew had brought back, but no one knew what to make of it all. The encounters with the void were not easily explained, and many in the scientific community were hesitant to fully accept the crew's accounts. Yet, despite the uncertainty, there was a quiet undercurrent of change. People were beginning to ask different questions. The void had not just altered the crew. It had altered the very way humanity looked at itself. Back at their base, Sam and the team found themselves retreating into the quiet of their own lives. The excitement of returning home had worn off, leaving behind the stark reality of what they had experienced. They were human again, imperfect, uncertain, but that was the beauty of it. They had faced something that most people would never comprehend, and they had survived. But there was a quiet acceptance of their place in the world that they hadn't felt before. One day, while Sam sat alone in his office, the message from the entity came again. It was as cryptic as before, but this time, Sam recognized something different in its tone. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't a warning. It was an acknowledgement. "You have chosen your path. Humanity has rejected the void, and in doing so, you have forged a new path. We will not return. You are free to grow." Sam's fingers trembled as he read the message, his heart racing with the realization of what it meant. The entity, whatever it was, had accepted their decision. It would not pursue them. The void had receded, and humanity was free to shape its future. But Sam knew this freedom wasn't a gift. It was earned. They had chosen to remain human, to accept the unknown and live with it. And that decision was what would define their legacy. He sat back in his chair, taking a deep breath, letting the reality of it all settle in. The world would move on, as it always had. But Sam knew that their journey was only just beginning. They had seen the edge of the universe, touched the void, and returned. But there was still so much more to explore, so many mysteries left unanswered. The void may have been a force beyond comprehension, but the true mystery, Sam realized, was the human spirit, the endless capacity to dream, to explore, and to choose a path, even when the future was uncertain. As the crew prepared to return to space, this time with a different purpose, they understood that their mission had changed. It wasn't just about exploration anymore. It was about survival, about holding on to the essence of what it meant to be human, even in the face of the unknown. They were ready, not because they had the answers, but because they understood that the answers didn't matter as much as the questions themselves. The universe was vast, and humanity was small, but in their hearts, they knew that the journey was the destination. As the ship ascended into the sky, carrying the crew into the depths of space once more, Sam looked out at the stars. They had chosen humanity, and now, in the vastness of the universe, they would continue to push forward, exploring the unknown with the knowledge that the greatest mystery of all was the journey itself. The stars stretched out before them, distant and cold, but there was warmth in the hearts of the crew. They had faced the impossible, survived the unknown, and returned with something more precious than knowledge, an understanding of their place in the grand scheme of the universe. But even as they prepared to embark on their next mission, they knew the real challenge wasn't the vastness of space. It was time itself, time that was both their ally and their enemy, pushing them toward a future they couldn't yet fully comprehend. The crew of the ship had settled into a routine since their return from the alien planet. The initial shock had worn off, and the steady hum of the ship's engines had become a familiar sound. But now, as they ventured deeper into the unknown, Sam couldn't shake the feeling that they were being drawn toward something. A place where time itself might bend and stretch in ways they couldn't predict. Lena had noticed it too. "Have you been feeling it?" she asked, as she studied the navigational charts in front of her. "The pole?" Sam asked, his eyes narrowing as he looked at the coordinates on the screen. "Yeah, I feel it too. It's like something is waiting for us out there. Something big." Gabriel was at the communications console, his eyes scanning incoming messages. "I've picked up a signal. It's faint, but it's coming from that same region of space, the one that led us to the void." The familiar unease settled in, but there was also something else, curiosity. It wasn't just fear this time. It was the same feeling that had driven them all to explore in the first place, the desire to know, to understand, to push past the limits of what was known. "We're not turning back, are we?" Lena asked, her tone knowing. Sam shook his head, a small smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "No, we're not. Let's see where this takes us." The deeper they traveled into the unknown, the more surreal things became. The stars around them seemed to shift, their positions warping in ways that couldn't be explained by conventional physics. Time felt fluid, bending and twisting, as if the universe itself was opening a door to something beyond understanding. Dr. Chong had been quiet, her usual calm demeanor now replaced by an air of concentration. She was working in the lab, running calculations on the strange phenomena they were encountering. "This doesn't make sense," she said, her voice tinged with disbelief. "The data is showing fluctuations in time itself. Like time is folding in on itself." Gabriel leaned over her shoulder, looking at the readouts. "You're saying we're near a time anomaly?" Dr. Chong nodded. "Yes, we're on the edge of something that could alter the very fabric of reality. I don't know what we're dealing with, but I can't ignore the readings. We need to be careful." Sam's mind raced as he processed this new development. A rift in time. It felt like déjà vu, like they were being pulled into another unknown force, something that was both terrifying and mesmerizing. They had escaped the void only to encounter something that seemed even more incomprehensible. "Let's continue. We need to know what's at the center of this anomaly," Sam said. "This could be the key to everything." As they approached the heart of the time anomaly, the ship's instruments began to behave erratically. Time itself seemed to warp around them. The view outside the windows distorted, showing flashes of past events, glimpses of their own lives, moments they thought they had forgotten. Sam stared out the window, watching the shifting images. At first, they were fragments, snippets of their past, memories long buried beneath the weight of their journey. But as the ship drew closer to the anomaly, those images grew clearer, more distinct. "Is that us?" Lena whispered, pointing to the strange scene unfolding before them. It was a younger version of their crew, standing on Earth before their first mission. It felt like a dream, but it was unmistakably real. "We're seeing our past," Sam said, his voice low. "But how? Why?" The answer came to them in a flash. This wasn't just a time anomaly. It was a rift, a tear in the very fabric of time itself. And they weren't just witnesses to the past. They were interacting with it. "It's not just a rift," Dr. Chang said, her eyes wide with realization. "It's a bridge. We're being shown the echoes of time. This anomaly is allowing us to see, and possibly even affect, the past." The implications were staggering. If they could see the past, did that mean they could change it? Could they alter the course of history? Could they fix the mistakes they had made, or erase the events that had led them to this point? The crew sat in stunned silence as the magnitude of the discovery sank in. The line between past, present, and future was blurring before their eyes, and the power to change everything was now within their grasp. But with this power came a question that had haunted humanity for centuries. If given the chance, would they change the past? Would they correct the mistakes? Or would they risk unraveling everything they had fought for? "We need to think carefully," Gabriel said, his voice steady despite the tension in the room. "This kind of power, it's dangerous. We don't know what kind of consequences altering time could have. We may not just affect our past, we could change the entire future." Lena's eyes were filled with uncertainty. "But what if we could fix things? What if we could prevent the void from ever reaching us in the first place? Couldn't we save ourselves from that nightmare?" Sam looked at her, torn between the temptation of rewriting history and the reality of their situation. "We don't know what kind of butterfly effect we might cause. We could make things worse, not better." Dr. Chang spoke up, her voice thoughtful. "The nature of time is not so simple. What if we're not meant to change it? What if the void, the rift, it was always going to happen? Maybe this anomaly isn't offering us a chance to fix things. Maybe it's showing us that we can't control time, that we have to accept it the same way we accepted our humanity." The crew fell silent once more, the weight of the decision pressing down on them. Sam felt his heart pounding as he realized that this moment, this decision, could be the most important one of their lives. It wasn't about saving themselves or preventing the void. It was about accepting that some things were beyond their control. Sam made his choice. "We're not going to change the past," he said, his voice firm. "We've seen enough. We've learned enough. But we can't tamper with time. We have to let things unfold as they were meant to. If we try to rewrite history, we might erase everything we've worked for. The journey itself is what defines us." Lena and Gabriel exchanged looks, but after a moment, they both nodded in agreement. Dr. Chang's expression softened. "You're right. The future is shaped by what we do now, not what we wish we could have done." With one final glance at the echoes of their past, Sam activated the ship systems, carefully pulling them away from the anomaly. The images faded, the distortions in space-time slowly subsiding, and the ship continued on its path. The rift in time had shown them the fragility of existence, but it had also reaffirmed the truth that they had learned in the void. Humanity was defined not by its control over the universe, but by its acceptance of the unknown. The ship coasted silently through the cosmic expanse, the anomalies of time and space now behind them. The crew, though physically exhausted, was mentally awake in a way they hadn't been before. They had just faced their deepest fears, an encounter with time itself, and emerged with more questions than answers. But now, as they sailed toward their next destination, the future felt clearer in some ways. They had learned a profound lesson. They could not control time, nor could they rewrite the past. But what they could do was shape their own path, no matter how uncertain it was. As Sam stood at the helm of the ship, gazing at the infinite stretch of stars ahead, he couldn't help but reflect on the decisions they had made. The choice to leave the rift in time alone, to resist the temptation to change history, was it the right one? They had seen how fragile the fabric of time could be, how easily it could fracture and shatter. But they had also seen that the true power lay not in rewriting the past, but in embracing the future with open eyes. Lena joined him at the control panel, her expression thoughtful. "Do you think we did the right thing, Sam? With the time anomaly, I mean, He turned to her, meeting her gaze. I don't know, Lena, but I do know this. We've learned that some things are meant to happen the way they do. We can't go back, and we can't change the course of history. All we can do is make the most of the time we have now. There was a silence between them, a shared understanding that, no matter what lay ahead, the road they had traveled together had already shaped them in ways they couldn't quite explain. They had seen the edge of the universe, touched the very concept of time, and returned to Earth, forever changed. And now, they were stepping into a future that no longer seemed as daunting as it once did. Gabriel's voice crackled through the intercom, breaking their moment of quiet reflection. Sam, I think you should see this. We've detected something, another anomaly. Not like the one we just encountered, but still strange. Sam's brow furrowed. Another anomaly? How far? Not far, Gabriel responded. I think we should check it out. As they approached the coordinates, the crew felt a mixture of anticipation and caution. They had just escaped one dangerous situation, and now they were heading toward another. This was their new reality. Each discovery came with its own set of risks, but the allure of the unknown was far too strong to ignore. Lena was at the navigation console, her fingers flying over the controls as the ship adjusted course. Whatever this is, it's unlike anything we've seen. It's giving off strange energy signatures, almost like a beacon. Dr. Chang joined them in the cockpit, her face a mask of concentration. A beacon? We should proceed with caution. If it's a distress signal, we don't know what we might encounter. Sam nodded, his resolve firm. We'll be cautious, but we can't ignore it. Let's see what we're dealing with. The ship adjusted its course, drawing closer to the mysterious source. As they entered the region of space where the signal originated, the view screen flickered. For a moment, everything was dark. Then, suddenly, a massive structure appeared, hanging in space like a colossal relic from a forgotten age. What in the world? Lena whispered, her voice full of awe. The structure was an enigma. It appeared to be a colossal, geometric shape, something that didn't belong in the natural order of the cosmos. It had smooth, metallic surfaces that seemed to shimmer in the light of distant stars, and lines etched deep into its surface, as if it had been there for millennia. Is this artificial? Gabriel asked, his voice filled with disbelief. Dr. Chang examined the readings, her eyes narrowing. It's definitely not natural. The energy signatures are too precise. This is a construct, but it doesn't match anything we've encountered. It's older than anything we know. I would say it's ancient. Sam's mind raced. Could it be another civilization? Or something left behind by the entity we encountered earlier? Lena looked at him, a mix of excitement and caution in her expression. Whatever it is, we need to approach carefully. This could be more than we bargained for. As they approached the structure, the ship's sensors began to react strangely, giving off readings that made no sense. But the closer they came, the clearer the structure became. A massive door, etched with symbols they couldn't understand, loomed before them. It was as if the door itself had been waiting for them, inviting them to unlock its secrets. Sam, we're being drawn toward it, Gabriel said, his voice tinged with awe. I don't know how, but it's almost like it's calling us. Sam hesitated. They had already faced the unknown, and now they were at the threshold of something even more mysterious. All right, let's dock and see what's inside. But stay alert. We don't know what we're dealing with. The ship's docking mechanisms engaged, and soon, the crew stood in front of the colossal door. It was beautiful and imposing, its symbols flickering with an energy that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. Sam reached out, placing his hand on the cold surface of the door, and for a moment, everything fell silent. It was as though time itself held its breath. With a low hum, the door began to open, revealing the interior of the structure. It was vast, so vast that they couldn't see the end of it. The walls were lined with intricate patterns, their shapes shifting like shadows in the dim light. And in the center of the room stood an object, a sphere, hovering just above the ground, pulsing with a soft glow. The sphere seemed to be calling them, its energy a quiet yet undeniable pull. What is it? Dr. Chang asked, stepping forward with reverence. This could be the key to everything. Sam felt a strange sense of recognition, as though he had seen this object before, even though he knew he hadn't. It was like a forgotten memory, something buried deep within him, stirring with curiosity and fear. "Whatever it is," Sam said, "let's be careful. We don't know what it can do." The crew stood there in awe, the weight of their discovery pressing down on them. They had made it to the edge of the universe, only to find themselves standing before a mystery that could change the course of humanity's future. "What do we do now?" Lena asked, her voice uncertain. "Do we touch it? Do we try to understand what it is?" Sam turned to face her, his mind racing with the possibilities. They had encountered the void, witnessed the distortions of time, and now they were standing on the precipice of something that could be even greater. "We don't know what this is yet," Sam said, "but we're here, and we have to make a choice. We can't let fear guide us. Whatever it is, it's part of the future now. Let's find out what it has to offer." As Sam approached the sphere, he felt the weight of history upon him. The future, once an abstract concept, was now in his hands. The choices they made from this point onward would echo across time. The crew, united in purpose, stepped forward into the unknown, ready to face whatever challenge lay ahead. The sphere hummed softly as Sam reached out and placed his hand on its surface. The moment his skin made contact, a surge of energy flowed through him, a jolt of power and understanding that was almost overwhelming. It wasn't just a physical sensation. It was mental, emotional, and even spiritual. In an instant, his mind expanded, as if he were seeing the entire universe laid out before him. For a brief moment, Sam felt like he could touch every star, every planet, every atom in existence. The vastness of the cosmos, the intricate dance of time and space, and the complex connections between all things suddenly felt understandable. He could hear the whispers of ancient civilizations, feel the pulse of worlds that had long since crumbled into dust. The universe was alive, connected, and he was a part of it. Then, just as quickly as the sensation came, it faded. He staggered back, breathless, and glanced at the others. Lena, Gabriel, Dr. Chong. All were watching him intently, their eyes wide with a mix of fear and awe. "What just happened?" Lena whispered, her voice trembling. Sam didn't have an answer. His mind was still reeling from the experience. I don't know," he said, his voice low, "but I saw everything. The entire universe. It's all connected, and we're all part of it." Dr. Chong took a step forward, her expression one of both fascination and concern. "Is it possible that the sphere is a kind of, what? A portal? A way to access knowledge? It could be an advanced technology left by an ancient civilization." Gabriel's voice cut through the air. "Or maybe it's something more. A link between all of us, between this world and every other world that has ever existed. If it can connect us to the fabric of the universe, think of the potential, the knowledge, the power. But at what cost?" Sam interrupted. His mind was still grasping for clarity. "If it's connected to everything, does that mean it's also connected to time itself?" The realization struck him like a bolt of lightning. Time. It wasn't just a sequence of events. It was a thread, woven into the very fabric of reality. If this sphere held the key to the universe, then it might also hold the key to controlling, or even rewriting, time. Lena, noticing the shift in Sam's demeanor, stepped forward. "Sam, you're thinking too much. Let's take it slow. We don't know what we're dealing with here. If the sphere can alter time, who knows what the consequences could be?" Sam nodded slowly, the weight of her words sinking in. She was right. They had just faced one anomaly. They couldn't risk triggering another one, especially one they didn't understand. But deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was their moment. The future, his future, was somehow bound to this discovery. It was an opportunity for humanity to transcend its limitations, to break free of its current understanding and push into a new era. "We need to make a choice," Sam said, his voice firm. "We can't just leave it here, knowing what it's capable of. But we also can't rush in without understanding the full scope of what it might mean." For the next several hours, the crew explored the interior of the structure, gathering as much information as they could. The sphere remained the focal point, its glow flickering in the dim light. Sam spent most of his time studying the object, trying to make sense of the strange symbols etched into its surface, but it was no use. Everything about it was beyond their current understanding. "We need to decide what to do with this," Sam said, finally breaking the silence that had hung over them. "We can't just leave it. But we also have to consider the consequences. If this thing can alter time, it could change everything. Everything we know, everything we are." Dr. Chang sat down on one of the metal crates nearby, her brow furrowed in deep thought. "There are ethical implications here, Sam. We have no idea how something like this could affect the timeline. If we misuse it, it could unravel everything. Our past, our future. We've already seen how fragile time is." Lena nodded, her face serious. "And even if it doesn't have the power to alter time, it could still change the world in ways we can't predict. What if this is what the universe wants? What if this is part of a grand design, something we can't control?" The question hung in the air, unresolved. The stakes felt higher now, the consequences even more profound. This wasn't just a scientific discovery. This was a moral dilemma, one that could define the future of humanity. The hours stretched on, and still, the crew could not agree on what to do. There was no perfect solution, no clear path forward. But then, as Sam stood once more before the sphere, he made a decision. Not just for himself, but for all of them. "I've made my choice," he said quietly, turning to face his team. "We can't control the future, but we can choose what we do with the knowledge we have now. This sphere, it doesn't belong to us. It belongs to the universe. We have to let it go. We can't hold on to something like this out of fear or ambition. We have to trust that the universe will guide us toward the future we need, not the one we think we want." Lena looked at him with a mixture of respect and relief. "You're right. We've been chasing after answers, but sometimes the most important thing is knowing when to stop chasing. Let's leave it here. Let the future unfold on its own terms." Dr. Chang, though conflicted, finally nodded. "It's the right choice. We may not understand everything now, but maybe that's the way it's meant to be. We're not the ones to decide how the universe should work." Gabriel, ever the pragmatist, gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. "Let's trust in the unknown." And so, they made the decision to leave the sphere behind. They locked the door to the mysterious structure and set course back to Earth. The journey had changed them all, physically, emotionally, and intellectually. They had seen the edge of existence, touched the threads of time, and come to understand the true nature of the universe. They had discovered that while knowledge was power, wisdom lay in knowing when to walk away. As the stars stretched out before them, Sam looked to the future, not as something to fear, but as something to embrace. The universe was vast, full of mysteries waiting to be uncovered. But the greatest discovery, he realized, wasn't out there in the stars. It was within themselves, their capacity for growth, for change, and for understanding. The journey was far from over. In fact, it was only just beginning. The ship sailed through the void, its course set toward the unknown. The crew had left behind a legacy, one of caution, curiosity, and respect for the mysteries of the universe. They had made their choice, and with it, they had taken the first step into a future that would be shaped not by the past, but by their actions in the present. The story of their journey would be told for generations, but the ultimate truth remained simple. Sometimes, the greatest discoveries come not from what you find, but from what you choose to leave behind. As the ship disappeared into the vastness of space, the universe waited, forever changing, forever uncertain.